A cheerful crew crowds around the kiosk, and with cheers blasting overhead, the guy grabs his assistant and demands a few things right on the spot. The nervous girl thrusts the order into his hands and blurts out a grateful thank you for his help. They burst into celebration together as they finally clear every last bit of their goods. Then they start tallying their income, straight after subtracting those first expenses. They finally realize they pulled in 1,600,000 yen. The girl's jaw drops at how effortlessly Sure sells. She's convinced he's a real-life magician. But she's super shy, and when you push her, she insists it's way too exaggerated. Right when you think it's over, the story snaps to modern Japan. Sure suddenly wakes up in a forest, staring at a portal that opens straight to his own room. Behind him, a magical city glitters to life, and right ahead, his grandmother's room waits, only it's changed. The young man can still remember the moment he showed up at the house his grandmother left him. Then, when he swung open the wardrobe by the altar, he tripped straight into a brand new passageway to another world. Shrush shuts the door, chalking it up to stress from his old toxic job, telling himself it was all just his imagination. But the moment he opens it again, his eyes go wide, because nothing's a trick, it's all real, and his grandmother has been hiding a jaw-dropping secret in plain sight. She remembers vanishing 7 years ago, and it's only now, after all this time, that the authorities finally admit she's dead. When Shiro was just a kid, she kept peppering her with questions about this secret, and she swore that when he grew up, she'd finally spill every last detail. An elderly woman passed away before she could say a word, yet beside the photo, she tucked a letter full of clues for whoever came next. In the note, she spills the truth, begs him to forgive her for keeping it from him, and admits she's a witch from a place called Rufaro. She straight up tells you the wardrobe opens the door to Rufaro, this wild magical land packed with powers and spellwork. Teaming up with terrifying creatures, beings that don't just beat humans, they outclass them entirely. The old witch handed him a magical ring that made the words of this world snap into sense, then shoved Shuro a mission, read the 2 hidden books stashed behind the altar. He spots the ring teased in the books, but the words blur on the page. He can't make out a single meaning yet. In his head, his grandmother's voice echoes, urging him to put on the ring, and joy hits him like a wave. He realizes he can finally understand what's on the page. Then the longer he reads, the more a voice in his head hits him. He's just gained the skill called asterisk, equivalent exchange. Shira jolts upright, scanning the area for anyone nearby. Then his stomach drops as he realizes there's nobody there, just him. Just like leveling up in a game, he unlocks a brand new ability, slots in another item, and pauses, brain racing on what he's gonna do next. The boy freezes at the doorway, torn over whether to step out. Then his grandmother's words slam into his mind. Once you get there, everything will finally make sense. After getting everything ready, he prays for his grandmother, and then decides to hit the road the very next day. The very next morning, Sure can't contain his excitement. He bursts off on his journey right after that long trip. He barrels into a city where warriors, captains, and mages are everywhere, prowling the streets like they own the place. Stunned by what's in front of him, he suddenly clocks it, his stomach growling like crazy while he's still walking. He can't stop staring at the kebab stall, so Shurko finally leans in and asks what kind of meat they use. The seller leans in and swears it's a horned rabbit, and the best part, it'll only set you back 3 bronze coins. The young man blurts out an apology, admits he's got 0 money, and that lands like a punch in the seller's face. The moment he even thinks about shashlik, his mouth waters like he can already taste that delicious snack. And suddenly it hits him. He's got exactly 4,200 yen left from the store change. And he can't stop wishing he could snag these kebabs for yen. Right then, a glowing circle flares to life in his hand, and Quander plunges the yen he's holding into it. A young boy comes sprinting to the counter with stars in his eyes, asks the seller if the new coin is truly bronze. Then the seller nods and confirms it. The seller jolts in surprise, then quickly decides Seer must be a wanderer from some far-off land. Shiro grins about his trading skills and snatches up 3 steaming skewers. He devours the meal with full-on excitement, but his hopes crash the moment he realizes the flavor is painfully plain. The man kicks off his experiments, swapping coins back into yen, and then he realizes, thanks to his gift, he can flip the money anytime he wants. He decides he can rake in real money, so he keeps experimenting, swapping bigger and bigger amounts, and even goes as far as making a silver coin. He rushes back to the counter and asks if he can pay using that. But the seller snaps that there's no way to make change, and Shure's left reeling. What happened to Telly's money? He can't sit still, so he jets out to explore, until he stumbles on a lively market, where he grins and chats with the locals like he belongs there. Shira freezes when he realizes people are staring at him nonstop because of his totally modern clothes. The shy girl steps up to him, trembling, and thrusts the flowers into his hands like it's her whole world. When he asks the price, she freezes for a second, panics harder, and slashes her offer lower than before. He plucks a bright yellow flower and hands her 3 bronze coins, and her jaw drops in total shock. Then he leans in and says, "For a price like that, I deserve at least your name." He stares her down and demands, "So what's your name?" A girl named Anna is leaning in, telling you her story like it's the most important thing in the world. Shira blurts out her name and swears she's coming back. From Anna Shuru, he gets the shock of his life. He's in Menorca, a slice of Hilam's kingdom, and here the money makes no sense. A bronze coin is 100 yen, silver is 10,000, and gold is a full million. On average, people rake in 8 silver coins each month, and gold. That stuff is insanely rare. Even Anna, yes, kids too, can't just sell something whenever they want. She needs the state's permission first. He goes out and buys her even more flowers, and she just can't believe what she's seeing. And she leans in and swears to him that everything's gonna be okay. And it clicks for him. One lonely flower used just for decoration looks straight up wrong. He can't help but think, with pure warmth, that his grandmother is going to light up when she sees these beautiful flowers. She brushes past him, grabs his attention, and offers to escort him to the government office, then flashes a bright smile and shows him the way with unstoppable energy. When they finally reach the giant building, she beams and points at it like, "Here it is." Shira's nerves are on fire. He's scared trouble could pop up just because he's the foreigner here, but Anna steadies him fast and swears the locals are good people. Even though Sherry's nerves are screaming, he still jumps hard the moment the stern old elf barks a question at him in the office. She hands him a form and points him to the choices, like working the streets as a vendor and hauling goods for 10 bronze coins every single day. That same feed mixture rolled in and planted its stall right there. Or the shop owner can demand 3 silver coins a day, no less than 10 days straight. Shura picks the one that hits the strongest sales pitch, then slams the form in for submission. The elf stares at the weird name like it's a puzzle, blurts out, "That price is super low," then freezes, because he's suddenly terrified he doesn't know the local prices at all. Her tough exterior melts away, and she nods. "Yeah, that's fair," and she thanks the mayor for the set prices before wishing him the best of luck. Sherry starts with herself, then turns to Annie and blurts that she can't believe how everything ended up. He thanks her too, then hurries back toward the market. Anna looks crushed as she says her goodbye, then she shyly drops her head like she can't bear to meet anyone's eyes. But if Shur starts from the wrong side, she snaps in loud like, "No, this way," and points him straight to the right path. At the market, she leans in and asks what he's bringing to sell. He kicks things off like he's got it all figured out, then snaps, admitting he has absolutely no clue what any of this even means. Seeing him stuck in indecision, Anna flashes a grin and pitches the idea. Grab the fresh gear and start racking up adventures. Shura takes her suggestion and spots a sorceress, a fierce warrior, and a line of soldiers. Anya leans in and tells you about the monsters from the neighboring forest. Draw them here. He pictures a tentacled beast lunging at him. Then the memory of her advice slams back into his mind. She said it through a heavy sigh. Her flowers are selling worse since the monsters showed up. But don't worry, he's grinning because he snagged so many, and you can tell right away, can't you? Anna says she's thrilled to finally meet them. Shiro, mortified, can't help herself. She offers to take him straight to the local market. They slip into the lantern shop, and the owner's face looks freakishly familiar. There's a shop stacked with sleeping bags, and the seller looks like a cat with hooves, like you just stumbled into a weird dream. And there's this creepy little shop where knives and ropes hang everywhere, while a woman dressed like a rabbit tightens bindings around a terrified man. Yeah, there are all kinds of balls here, and Anna stands tall like she's found paradise, proudly saying this place is the real deal, totally special. True to her promise, Anna tapped her own chest, right on cue, but she hit a little too hard, and the sudden cough burst out of her like a shockwave, making the guy instantly panic about whether she was okay. She grabbed Shuar's hand, marched him to the nearby shops, and he gazed back at her with a warm smile, already picturing her becoming an incredible wife. During the talk, he kept blabbering on and on without letting up. Shirer couldn't stop daydreaming about the wonderful wife and daughter he'd soon have. Anna cut into his thoughts and leaned in like she couldn't help it, asking what he was planning to sell. Shur leaned in close and murmured the answer right in Anna's ear. Then the next day, when she replayed his words in her head, confusion hit her hard because she still had no clue what he was talking about. Morning burst in and Shura grinned as he stretched wide, ready to spread his wares. then he practically bounced up to greet everyone. When they asked if she'd sell flowers again, she gave a quick nod and said she gets up at dawn just to gather them. Shira leaned in and praised her like crazy, saying those flowers were stunning, and that she'd absolutely rake in a ton of sales. When Anna heard that, her smile burst wide, and she shot back that she sells them so she can buy medicine for her mother. Anna, buzzing with energy, waved him off and promised, "I'll catch up with you later." She sprinted down the street clutching a basket of flowers, handing them to strangers. Then bam, she slammed into someone and down she went. Seeing that, his eyes burned, almost tears, but he snapped into action, shouted encouragement to her, and swore he'd give it everything too. Right then, the first customer stepped up, leaned in, and asked what he was selling. The buyer stared at the box in shock, took it from the confident hands that delivered it, and couldn't stop wondering if it was some kind of handmade treasure. Shir leaned in and said, "This is a matchbox. Open it, and you'll find a tiny stick inside that can spark a real fire." The client and the adventurer scoffed, saying they'd never once heard that a tiny wooden stick could spark a fire. Then Shira showed him how to light a match, slam it against the box, and bam, a tiny flame jumped up right away. The adventurer stared hard, completely lost at first. Then he blurted out in shock, staring at what he just saw, and right away, chaos erupted all around him. Touchdown hit, and the adventurer gasped, stunned, asking her how on earth she pulled it off. Clutching a burning match, Shira just shrugged like it was nothing, totally unbothered by the traveler's question, and secretly wondering if he'd ever seen anything even remotely like it. He promised he'd reveal it all one more time, then started the countdown. When it hit 0, he struck another match and left everyone stunned all over again. A crowd surged in, stunned by what the traveler did. People whispered it was witchcraft or dark magic, or maybe some weird contraption, but nobody had ever laid eyes on anything like it before. Shiro pitched his product with total confidence, swearing it's ridiculously easy to use, and the customers jumped in, grabbing the matches themselves, and lit up with excitement. While Shiro grinded through it all, relief hit him hard. His plan was actually working. Walking through the market with Anna, he suddenly realized this whole world had never even heard of matches, so he bolted back to his world, grabbed them, and came racing here to sell them. For 250 years, the old elf of market swore he'd never witnessed anything like this. Then the lizard chimed in, all smiles, like it agreed completely. That adventure from earlier wasn't just great, it was straight up unbelievable. It took forever to spark a fire with stone, and even the magical tools felt like a tangled mess. The traveler admitted these tools were brutally heavy and a total pain to drag around. And with no help from the witch, he battled for ages just to get the fire burning. Shura shot a confident nod, then started talking like some tech genius who just cracked the impossible, swearing that with him here, people would finally be free from those problems for good. Dressed like Steve Jobs, he hoisted a tiny box in that nail-biting moment, and the crowd exploded into applause. He blurted out, "Who wants to buy?" And the moment someone jumped in, bam, he got cut off mid-sentence. Suddenly, the adventurer shot a serious question. "How much does this match cost?" The crowd huddled in whispers, convinced this was going to cost a fortune. But Sir had already braced for this. He leaned in and asked the traveler what it might cost, and after a quick pause, the traveler guessed it would probably run around 80 bronze coins. Shira grinned and started weighing her move, flipped them as a pricey luxury to rake in huge profit per sale, or slash the price and cash in on a flood of buyers. First, he pocketed a commission in cash from every single sale. At first, only a small crowd could afford the product, but as time passed, more people jumped in to buy, even if his cut per sale started to shrink. He grins and tells you every box comes packed with 40 matches, then throws in a discount for the grand opening of his brand new business. Right on the spot, he prices each box at 5 bronze coins. It shocked everyone to the core, and instantly rained down orders like crazy. Shiru bluntly tells everyone to keep the match bone dry. Any moisture will wreck it. In the end, the boy unloads his goods to over 100 buyers, leaving only that one old man, who's completely out of luck. The boy shoots him an apology, then swears that tomorrow he'll be first in line for sure. But the grandfather snaps back, furious that he's just 120 years old. Exhausted and rattled by the crowd, Chiru drops down to rest, but the second his eyes close, worry claws at him about what tomorrow will bring. Dark clouds churn overhead, and the young man starts to wonder if he's got the strength to keep going. Then he watches a flower tumble to the ground and realizes he can't quit. Then all eyes swing to Anna. Like always, she snatches the fallen flower off the ground and smiles like it means everything. She's at it again, full of energy, hawking her flowers at the top of her lungs, shouting to every customer that the prices are ridiculously affordable. Out of nowhere, someone shouted her name, so she snapped around, heart racing, ready to see who it was. Shura blurts out, shocked, "What happened to your store?" And the man just shrugs. He's sold everything out, and he's shutting it down for the day. It jumps right into conversation. Then Shur asks about his sales, and everything hangs in the balance. She turns a deep shade of red, clutches the basket of flowers to her chest, and finally whispers that she's honestly not sure. She stares at her flowers in a daze, baffled that they won't budge, and then, right as the confusion hits, tears start spilling from her eyes. With worry in her eyes, she checks whether she's hurt, but the tears hit and vanish fast, and she insists with a shaky smile that she's totally fine. She sprints out the door, determined to sell even more. But he yanks her by the hand, stopping her right in her tracks. Confused and trembling, she stares at him with tear-filled eyes as he begs her to finally listen. She's yelling at the top of her lungs, demanding to know exactly what he thinks he's doing. He leans in and begs her, "Help me tomorrow," and she shoots back, "Wait, are you okay?" She leans in and tells her, "He needs you, only you can handle this," then swears she'll pay her right there. Anna nods at the proposal, then breaks into a bright smile. She's all in, saying yes to help because working with Shuru has her totally hooked. He's about to thank her, but she waves it off. She hasn't sold a single flower, so she says she doesn't deserve it. She grips his hand tight and declares, without hesitation, that it's she who should be thanking him. With a warm look, he thinks, that grateful sincerity means I've got to push harder. Shur asks if they can meet tomorrow, and she, still clutching his hand, grins and says yes right away. They scatter and he whips his head back, double-checking that nobody's watching him. No one's around, so he tiptoes to a portal, cracks it open just enough to slip into his world, then hides it fast, terrified someone might spot it. He claims that this portal to the wardrobe can pop open anywhere he wants. But even so, worry gnaws at him. What if people start whispering about him? The second he's back home, he rushes to check exactly how much he earned. He trades his coins for yen through a special exchange, like he's turning treasure into power. He raked in 25,550 yen in a single day, and the thrill is unreal. He's comparing it to what he used to make before. He swears that if things keep going like this, he'll never have to work again, just thinks about kicking back with video games and devouring manga. Then snaps back to reality and decides to get ready for tomorrow. Shiro barges into the supermarket and starts hunting for matches. He spots them right away, and there, hidden among the rest, are the rare special ones that can stand up to wind and water, and the fact he never even guessed stuff like that existed is downright shocking. He snatches a few pieces now, then later sells them to adventurers and pockets the profit. The cashier freezes at this weird vibe and starts to wonder, quietly but painfully, if something's seriously wrong with him. With boxes stacked in his arms, Shur suddenly snaps to the truth. He never once thought about how brutal it would be to drag all of this home. Then it hits him, his power can transform, and that's the move he's going to make. In a world where he's got one last special skill to use, he slips into a quiet spot, stashes his stuff, and triggers his space storage. Suddenly, a tear rips open in reality right in front of Shiro, and it absolutely floors her. Then he starts hurling packages inside, bam, one after another. When it's all done, he erupts in joy because he's finally carved out his very own pocket dimension. He remembers cramming every last thing into his old backpack, and because of his past job, back pain started creeping up on him. He knows there's no way he could haul all these purchases, no way without bags. Shiro's jaw drops when he realizes that a huge magical circle can let him see razor-sharp details of whatever's inside, and now he's desperate to know how far his power goes, because his grandmother's got something big cooking. As he stares at his hands, dread crashes in. He knows he'll never be able to grip anything again. He decides to sell matchboxes for 4 more days, then finally asks himself what he'll sell next. With a confident grin, he lifts his hand and declares that these abilities will rake him in for sure, turning his future into pure wealth. Right then, a little girl jabs her finger at him and whispers to her mother, saying the strange man is muttering to himself again, only for the mother to snap at her to stop pointing at strangers. Shyness hits her hard, so she drops her gaze and heads straight for home. The day kicks off with Anna snapping awake inside a plain little brick house that looks almost too simple to hide anything. Little Anna blurts out that we bought her mom, while a vase of flowers sits on the windowsill and her mom lies motionless in bed. With a warm smile, the woman asks Anna if she's taking flowers along, and Anna shakes her head. She's headed to help at Shira's shop instead. Meanwhile, Shira was at his grandmother's place, kneeling by the home altar to beg her blessing. Then he stepped through the portal and practically burst with excitement, ready to slam into a brand new day. Anna strolls through the city grinning, and then she catches up with the others. He rushes up, greets her, and blurts out an apology for being late. Then she shrugs and says she just got here too. But he presses her hard until she finally admits she waited just a little. She straight up admits the customers are already stacked in line. So only then does he finally spot a handful of people hanging around the store. Anna grins as she comes back to him, eager to start. Then he cuts in and says he still needs a few minutes to get everything ready. He spots a huge line inching along to get inside, and it's so packed they're basically shutting down the entrances to the other stores. He realizes it's a bad sign, because he's lived through something just like this at his old job. One more shop owner leans in and warns him about the crowd, and Shura snaps back, promising he'll straighten everything out. Up close it clicks, there's the kebab seller from the stall, right in front of him. The seller closes in on Shura and blurts that he'd heard the rumors about the matches, but he couldn't believe it was really him until now. He spots the line stretching out, but nobody's getting served, so he fires off a quick question, is everything okay? Shura lays out exactly what's wrong with those other stores, and the seller finally gets it. Friends pressure Shura to work for free at their place today, saying it's farther away like that makes it okay. Shura leans in and asks if she's okay, and the woman smiles that everything's fine, this is a break now. Shura thanks her, and just like that, Anna's eyes light up. He leans in and asks, is that woman the merchant's wife? But the man blurts that she's his sister, fast. Then she winks at Shira, and Shira's jaw drops because they look nothing alike. She's drop-dead gorgeous, and Sheru and Anna cut through a short route to the store where roasted meat waits for them. Then the second they get there, they dash to unpack everything. Shira breaks down which sizes and products will actually sell best. She insists I'm fine, but her eyes scream panic, and then he asks again, because he can see her hands trembling. But they swing the door open anyway and fire up the store. A massive line already snakes outside, and everyone's hurrying to apologize for the wait, promising, we'll start serving any minute. The fast-talking one shouts for the holders of priority tickets to step up right now. He breaks it all down for Anna, how to take the orders, and even though her nerves are buzzing, she listens hard and follows every command to the letter. Anna can't believe how fast the boxes vanish, yet the line still stretches on. She calls the next customer, her excitement practically buzzing. And he can't stop wondering, this stuff feels like real sales magic, or is it just an illusion? Before the doors shut for good, Shiro rushes over to the visitors and throws out a heartfelt apology, because every single item is already gone, sold out. Anna couldn't even breathe. Shur said all of this happened because of her and the owners of that kebab kiosk. He snaps into action, starts counting every coin they earned, and then double-checks his earnings like it's a lifeline. He said he figured he'd pull in 200,000 yen from yesterday's sales. Then boom, in just 3 hours they raked in a full million. That young man claps the math together and realizes his 5 million yen is basically 490,000 yen an hour. Then he can't help but wonder, is this already what a millionaire makes? He decides to bolt before trouble catches him, slings the backpack onto his back, and the thing is so damn heavy he almost topples over. He considers stuffing it away in his pocket dimension, but he stops cold, because the last thing he wants is for anyone to catch on. Instead of that, he hands Anna a pouch stuffed with coins, and she erupts in joy, thanking him from the bottom of her heart. Then he gently strokes her head, urging her to pick out a gift for Mom, because he tells her she's helped out so much. But Anna insists she's truly thankful for the work he's put into his workshop, and Shira cuts her off mid-sentence. He waves it off, telling her she doesn't need to thank him, because she earned it with sheer hard work. Then he winks like, yeah, don't make it weird. She pouted for a moment, clearly wanting to say even more, and that's when Shira burst out laughing. Right then her stomach growls loud as thunder. She freezes, cheeks blazing with an awkward blush. Shira swings her bag open and spots the missed break, so she grabs her chance and suggests they grab a snack together. Shura yanks sandwiches out of Anna's bag. Right away she's drooling nonstop, and she blurts, is it bread? After one bite her whole face lights up, eyes sparkling. She happily savors every mouthful and blurts, that's so delicious. Shira can't help but beam, knowing she loved it. While they're eating, a tall, sharp-dressed young woman with long hair strides right up to them. She leans in and begs for a little of your time, saying she's heard wild rumors about the matches, and now she wants to know if Shura is the one selling them. He confirms he was there, and then drops the bad news. Everything's already been sold out. She clutches her chest and blurts out, I didn't come to buy anything. She slid right up to him and declared, I'm Shankara, mayor of this city. She catches Shura completely off guard, because he never, ever expected someone this young and stunning to be the one holding that kind of power. Instead, I pictured a big, burly, muscle-packed monster of a man. Blundering over his words, he blurts out what she wants to talk about, Sankara and Anna stare in, watching every breath. Thanks, sure, when you rolled into the city of Beaz with your trading skills, you didn't just help us, you handed us the knowledge too. Shari tells him, actually, you should thank me for letting you set up shop here. She praises him for being modest, then admits most local traders are a nightmare to deal with, and Shiro can't believe it. Out of nowhere, she blurts that he can help her, and it totally knocks the air out of him. But somehow, the two of them start talking and it clicks. As Anna dozes off dreams of food, Sankara snaps that the city is so cut off that merchants strut in like they're doing the whole world a favor just by showing up. They jack up their prices sky high, while locals undercut them with cheap products, and the city's economy gets thrown into chaos. Shura's eyes go wide as she leans in, listening to Shura as she fires off her big dream, solving everything by building a market. After her speech, her smile falters as she realizes she's stuck under his shocked stare. Then he shoves the key into his hand, and suddenly he's trying to figure out exactly what it unlocks. Shara's jaw drops. She can't believe this might be the one clue that opens Saint Kara's house. He can't just brush off that thought, can he? Sankara winks and drops that it's the key to her house, leaving him stunned like, wait, is this really pointing to something between us? When she asks what happened, he waves it off and insists everything's fine. But right here, Anna steps in fast and drops the bombshell that the mayor doesn't want them apart at all. He wants to live together with Shiro. He's totally baffled, and Anna insists that Sinkar wants to marry him, so Sinkar awkwardly clenches his teeth like he's trying not to panic. She shoots the rumor down with a confident snap, insists she's not lonely or desperate, and then swiftly regains her composure. She snaps back to it and starts asking him, straight up, for a favor. But just as she's about to keep going, someone cuts in and blurts, "Are you married?" Panic and embarrassment flood her face, and she quickly answers, no. Then she jabs a finger at the empty house and tells him, tomorrow, this key lets you walk right in. And on top of that, she orders him to sell his goods on the first floor. Shru's eyes widen, why? And before his question even finishes, Holy Kara answers, other merchants have been grumbling that they simply can't. He couldn't beat the monster long lines at his store, and when he nodded, you could tell he got exactly how brutal that grind was for them. Sankara grins and tells him, come on, I'll show you everything, insisting there's no rush to decide just yet. They stride through the city and close in on the house she picked, and the second they reach it, both of them go deadly quiet, like the weight of this moment just snapped into place. While Anna is joyfully running circles and cheering the store grand opening, another woman openly doubts it's truly all okay. She even blurts that she's hoping everyone will end up loving it. And then he leans in, grinning, and says he's got one last question. When Anna closes in and softly whispers in his ear, she teases him that maybe the mayor wants to know whether he recognizes anyone with a red face. Sure booms that he understands everything, then casually adds he doesn't have a girlfriend, right as the mayor's face drops into total confusion. She starts stammering, panicking that she meant something completely different. And that dude busts out laughing, swearing it was all a joke, while Mirka Sankara, still blushing, snaps herself back together in a flash. And he presses hard, straight up demanding to know why he decided to sell his stuff in this city. She points out the shocking truth. This town is tiny, with just 500 people living here. And with a heavy heart, he admits he could make more money if he jumped ship somewhere else. He admits she's right, because he's loving this place already, despite only landing here 3 days ago. Even though he's only just arrived in the city, he thanks Anna for every bit of work she's poured into helping him with the store and gushes about how kind the mayor is. His heartfelt words hit so hard the mayor's eyes soften as he warmly welcomes the young man and admits he can feel the city's magic in him. He remembers the warm-hearted folks he met in Minoru. You're from another world, clueless about every other city, and still, you can't shake the feeling. Anywhere else won't welcome you as warmly as this place does. Sankara slams his palms to his chest and fires off a heartfelt thank you to Shira for those warm, soul-lifting words. Anna froze in shock, and the moment he realized he'd hurt her feelings, he snapped an apology right away, insisting he never meant to do it. The man reaches out, and she tells him to call her Sankara, so he grips her hand and insists she can just call him Shuru. Then Anna jumps in with her own name. Everyone trades handshakes like it's a ritual of respect, and the mayor beams as she tells them how thrilled she is to finally meet them. On the screen, a graph snaps into view and shows Shuru flipping from a cool accelerator to a full-on store owner in only 3 wild days. He pictures his grandmother in heaven, smiling her heart out and flashing a peace sign like she knows everything's going to be okay. The very next day, he signs the lease for the store, just for 1 month. 5 days later, Shiro walks in and tells everyone the product's sold out, leaving the customers staring in shock. A young man in a suit and tie flips through his records, stunned, because he swore he'd sold enough to power an entire city. Then Mom bursts in and drops the news that she already cleaned up the store. She suggests they rest up top again, but she tries to offer help with something else, only for him to shut her down and insist she's already done more than enough. A wave of disappointment hits the little girl as she watches him sink into the chair and line up treats on the tray. Just as he turns to hand them to Anna, he freezes. She's already passed out asleep. When the little girl finally falls asleep, she murmurs softly and clings to Shira like he's her dad. He scrambles to fix it, but she cuts him off. Just hug me, so he hoists Anna into his arms. She's over the moon. Dad finally scoops her up in his arms, and it's not just him, because Mom does the very same thing too. And just like that, he drops off to sleep again. Wait, what? Sheru can't stop wondering if he's become a father to her, so he wraps her in a blanket and tells her she can come to him for anything at all. Anna drifts off to sleep, smiling through her dreams, while Shura vows to give her everything she's got. On the 6th day of the sale, Shiro finally breaks for Anna, because even his hustle needs a moment of breathing room. But he's utterly drained, realizing just how brutal it is to juggle everything alone, right when the mayor barges in. And he tells her the goods are sold out again. She shrugs like, of course, that's just how this seller is, but then he drops the real reason. He sold far more than the whole city could ever possibly need. Mirka told everyone she'd heard rumors that some people were flipping his goods in other cities. Shiro's weighing whether to cap how many times one customer can buy. Sankara wears a stern face and says she's come to ask you for a favor. He senses this could be huge, pulls her upstairs, and demands she tell him what she came to ask in the first place. But before she commits, she weighs whether to renew her membership in the City Guild of Adventurers. He confirms it's really called Silver Moon, and the mayor's jaw drops. He never expected this guy to already know that much. The earthworm swears he clocked every last detail because he's always tracking what's happening in the city. Most of his customers are adventurers, and the guild runs like a business that hands off quests to other people. They grab orders from clients, shove them to freelancers to get the job done, and then the organization pays up once the work is finished. It usually means taking down brutal, dangerous monsters, scavenging healing herbs and mushrooms, and then hammering out a bunch of other quests along the way. Sankara tells Santru, "You already get it, so let's make it simple. The Silver Moon is the only guild in this city." She starts spilling talk about the guild master, but the moment the wolf's energy turns, her mood sours fast. The guild's head calls the shots, top dog with serious authority, running the whole organization. She jolts to her feet and demands to know if the guild master's head is in trouble. After a brief pause, the mayor finally breaks the silence, saying everyone was left stunned by that flood. Sankara straight up tells them the guild's broke right now. There's no money to pay the adventurers. She's terrified they'll pack up and vanish from the city, and Shur agrees. Horror hits him hard at the thought of a crisis this huge. Mer flashes her usual confident grin and says, "Don't worry, I've got a plan, even when things get brutal." The mayor leans in and declares that the adventurers, guild from the capital, wants to plant a brand new branch right here in the city. But she always slammed the door on defending the Silver Moon. Yet now Shir is saying, with everything on the line, it might be time to finally say yes to the capital's proposal. Sankara shoots him a grateful look and thanks him for the help, but when Shuri turns her gaze on him, he catches sight of her and immediately fumbles, eyes darting away as he blurts out, "It's nothing." The mayor flat out tells her, "If you say yes, the capital guild's people will come down and decide on the spot whether they'll open their brand right here." She leaned in, asked Shrew to show them the matchboxes, and the room snapped with curiosity. And he insists everything's fine, then lines in like, "So what's the real problem?" Sankar blurts that she's never seen anything like it. No, not even back in the capital. And he can't stop wondering where on earth he even got something like that. Shur hesitates, then stumbles over the answer like it's slipping out of her grasp. She throws out a quick apology for butting into someone else's business, then tells Shira point blank, if she really controls the only monopoly on this product, the guild's going to come sniffing even harder. Shir realizes that if he wants to hit real success, he has to grab the capital guild's attention first. The mayor's gut twists with worry, but she shoots her a calm look, then swears she'll bring something so unexpected it'll blow her mind. Sankarakalsam is sweet and shy, so when he gets help, he promises he'll pay it back. The next day, Anna comes back to work and clocks Shira's tense, worried face, so she wastes no time and asks him what's wrong. He's on the hunt for something that'll blow the guild inspector away. Suddenly, he slams his decision down and tells Anna he has to go straight to St. Carr's home. When Sanka finally arrives, shock hits him at Shuru's request. she presses again, demanding he swear he's truly serious about it. And Shira straight up tells them she's dead serious about becoming an adventurer, then asks, right there, if she can tag along. Then he'd ask straight up, does he really want to hit the trails with the adventurers? He nods along, then explains it's the only way they'll truly figure out what they need. The mayor leans in, dead serious, asking if he truly gets every risk he's stepping into. Because every adventurer here heads straight for the forest, we catch a sudden look at the eastern woods, and there, lurking in the dark, a massive wolf-like creature. Sure knows this could get deadly, but he grins and swears he'll turn it into a journey, one where he hunts trophies and becomes a true traveler. Shankara's stance is simple. He's certain it's way safer that way. She's determined to hook him up with a small crew of adventurers. But these notes tear the relationship with the Silver Moon Guild apart. Saint Kara swears that last night, the guild's temporary head slipped into her home like a shadow. He frantically begged for money, burst into sobs, then crumpled to the floor. Shura's eyes widen at this audacious demand, and she blurts out, "How many guilds do you need?" Sankar just raises 10 fingers. Shira says it's 10 copper coins, then snaps her head and shakes her no. Then he leans in and asks, so 10 silver coins. But she denies it again. Shura's jaw drops as Shura screams in shock when he realizes his 10 gold coins are really 10 million yen, and Sankara snaps at him to stop the whole commotion. She drops her head and says, flat out, that money like that just doesn't exist anywhere in their town. Even a tenth of this would still be totally handleable. But once we shut down their request, getting the guild to help us is going to be a nightmare. The mayor's face tightens with worry as she stares at the inkwell on her desk, thinking hard. Then she snatches up a letter, slips it to Shira, and warns her not to get her hopes too high. Shurd is heading to the Silver Moon Guild for the very first time, and nerves are crawling up his spine since he's never been there before. The second he steps in, he spots the chaos. Then some adventurer swings at him on the spot, and he gets knocked clean off his feet onto the floor. The warrior snaps that Shira is fresh in town, and needs to show proper respect to her elders. Shira barely lifts himself off the ground and blurts out, I'm a merchant, not an adventurer. But the traveler keeps pressing him with threats, demanding that because Krot is a wealthy merchant, he should somehow appreciate getting hit. Shira slips out in silence, panicked that this can't be real, and creeps straight toward the door. As soon as he steps inside, he asks permission to enter. Then his eyes sweep the room and he realizes no one's there. Suddenly he senses someone close by, snaps, who's there, and catches a soft, trembling cry, so he steps in until he's right there and tells them, I've got a letter from the mayor, only for the person to answer him. Before Shura calmly taps her shoulder, asks if he can, and says he needs to talk, the rabbit-eared girl with the long tail instantly whips around to face him. But she's stunned. She's never heard of Shura or Yelves in her life. Who are you? She blurts out, eyes widening. And how long have you been standing here? Shura can't stop questioning it. Does she truly belong to the guild, or is she just pretending? But she keeps shrieking at the top of her lungs, demanding to know why he touched her. Without even pausing to scream, she blurts out, tell me, has Shira fallen for me? She leans in and tells him, say the word once, and I'll rain down 1,000 warriors, because I'm from Silvermoon. Then she closes her eyes and starts picturing herself on the front lines, issuing orders like a leader, rallying a revolutionary army to rise. Shiro snaps her back to reality and fires off the question, is anyone else here? She tells him that other people might be lurking nearby, but she won't back down. She insists with stubborn fire that only she can beat him. She swings her arms like a showman and declares that her strike can shatter stones. Shira glares at her, disappointment burning in her eyes, and thinks this is going to be a nightmare to handle. He barges in again, demands to know where the master's deputy is right now, and orders her to call him. She nods and says she can do it. But then the bombshell hits. She's the temporary head of the guild. Amal, the rabbit-eared girl, can't even believe it. She relives the moment she got named the new head of the guild. This all happened because everyone else was gone. There was literally only her left. There was another girl, but the moment the old master fled, she vanished too. Mel, completely smashed, slams the bottle on the table and blurts out to Shur that they'd been meeting in secret. And when she hears it, Shur snaps back, furious, that they never even realized she could understand everything. It all kicked off when they stole soft kisses in the shadows, right where nobody could catch them. At last, they ditched the secrecy and flaunted their feelings in the host's room. Then she erupted into curses. Hoping they'd get wiped out, they went in for the kill. Then the attack hit, and suddenly they were forced into slavery. Emel blurts that the old owner reeked like a street dog, and Shira scrambles to cool her off, insisting she did everything she possibly could. He leans in and asks if she's finally poured out all her anger, and she thanks him for enduring her grumbling for 5 whole hours. Then, blushing hard, she goes to unbutton her shirt to repay him, but he freezes, shocked, and blurts out what she thinks she's doing. Emil zips up his shirt in a rush and blurts out, "Got any tasks for me?" Sure snatches the letter the mayor sends straight into her hands. The second Emmy figures out who sent it, she snaps, and starts pelting them with insults. Shari's freaking out. What if Grandma's ring is cracked, just because he couldn't pull off her one last request? He's convinced she's just making the whole thing up. And he lays it all out, letters from Ms. Sankara, the mayor of the town of Minor, straight to the point. But Emil won't stop. He keeps hurling insults at the mermaid, calling her a foolish, soulless woman. She snatches the letter right out of Shira's hands, snarls that if it's from Sankara, it's doomed, and rips the whole thing to shreds. When Emil drops the truth that betrayal and deceit are pure evil, everyone bursts out in shock like, "Wait, what?" She whips around to him and demands to know what connection he has to Sankara. Rage flares in her chest because the mayor slammed the Silver Moon and picked a different guild instead. That's why she shamelessly went after the mayor like it was nothing. Right now, Sankara is in his office, sneezing up a storm. Emil snaps that even when she begged the mayor, Sankara never handed over her 10 gold coins. Then Sankara's nerves explode, and he rushes to call Shiromine. But Shiro rushes in to calm everyone down, insisting it's just a lot of money. And in Sankari, people were dealing with totally different worries, maybe worlds apart from what you'd expect. Suddenly, the girl whips around to Shura and demands why he's defending the mayor so fiercely. Does he secretly love Sankara? With tears streaming down her face, she blurts out that she still loves the mayor and that she truly sees her as her best friend. Shira believes that laying a hand on someone, especially a close friend, is dead wrong. Emma wipes away her tears and blurts that the oldest one must have been suffering without money, and now she's stuck, with no idea what to do next. The boy tells her, "Since you spilled your heart to the mayor, I'll let it slide. I'll forgive you for ripping up that letter." Shur shoves a handkerchief into Emo's hands and blurts that he's gotta ask the guild for a favor. She springs to her feet, straightens her hat, and fires off. "So, what do you need?" He tells everyone he's dying to jump into an adventure or take on a mission. Emeli tells them, "I'll file the request," even though they've never done anything like that before. The young man asks if it's hard to pull off, and she grins like she's got this, telling him she'll handle every single thing. She says only one crew of 4 seasoned pros will do, and that choice is gonna hit your wallet hard. She leans in and tells him the squad's name is Asia, /*. Picture this, a crackling fire in the forest, and there they sit, one sorceress with flowing long hair, and beside her a towering, middle-aged priest, young warrior and captive, who are about to change each other's fate. Shira sits back and replays everything that's happened to him since he arrived in this world, all the way down to how he stumbled on the portal hiding in the wardrobe, and the day he met Anna, and everything that stormed into his life right after that. Everything was flying, until the moment he started working in the shop the mayor assigned him. He can't stop thinking about that mysterious Silver Moon guild again. Sure can't stop replaying, half curious, half cringing, his surprise run-in with the substitute teacher in Nili. But right when his mind starts racing, Anna cuts in. She drags him back to reality, eyes full of worry, and demands to know if he's really about to shut the shop down temporarily. Shura nods, leans in, and tells her it'll only be 3 days, then dares her to live like a real adventurer. Anna leans in, listens to every word in Grincy, nods like she's got it, and tells him she's glad, because she's got her own personal problems that are begging to be fixed. Right when she tries to walk out, a tiny backpack suddenly locks onto her back. Worried to his core, Shryu asks Anna if everything's okay, but she just smiles calmly, tells him she's fine, and before she walks away, urges him to look after himself. Once they split up, Shur heads straight for the guild, and stops cold in front of those massive wooden doors. Right as he reaches for the door, Emil suddenly pops in out of nowhere, saying she's been waiting for him, and she sweeps him inside before he can even react. Shira freezes in place, replaying what happened last night, heat surging into his face, and he awkwardly darts his eyes away. Emil clocks the change, blinks at her, and asks why he's staring like he's terrified, but before he can even answer, she sweeps in with a promise she won't tease him. Then she pivots the moment, waving her hand to pull the Silver Adventurers, the guild's pride, into the discussion, and while Shire studies them, he spots a young adventurer sitting on a nearby bench, quietly locked in, watching everything with keen interest. Himalgo drops the bombshell. This squad is teaming up with Shiri to hunt down those rare, special herbs for his quest. 2 girls from the group stare hard at Shura. Then suddenly, right when Emo hasn't even managed to name the leader yet. The young man pops up from his seat like he's been waiting for this, grinning so wide it hurts, and he greets Shura, laughing that it's been ages since they last saw each other. Shura snaps his eyes a few times, completely lost, then it hits him like a lightning bolt. He remembers exactly who this guy is. This adventure marked the very first time he ever bought his matches. The boy gives a respectful nod, then introduces himself with a sharp grin. I'm Lyre, the leader of this crew. Then he jabs a finger at an elderly priest-dressed man named Raul. Raul grins warmly, walks right up to Shiro, and tells him he genuinely hopes they'll become best friends. Lur throws in a crucial detail. Yeah, Raul may be a cleric, but he's also a powerhouse, swinging a huge staff like it's nothing. And even with that gentle vibe, Lur flat out warns you not to push him, because you really don't want to see him get riled up. Then he drags everyone over to the girl with long hair, cloak on, huge witch hat tilted, and a staff in hand, Nesca, the sorceress of their team. Lur nudges her to speak, and Nesca, deadpan and unbothered, quietly greets Shuru. Lyre grins and admits she's a little shy, but her magic is legit. She just needs a bit more time to cast her spells. Then Nesca lifts her stick, taps the Lyre on the head with a sharp little knock, and mutters, right to his face, that he better not meddle in her business. Lyre huffs through gritted teeth that he won't lift a finger unless she cranks up the magic, and Nesca just rolls her eyes and shoots back that she'll consider it. Before Lyre can even keep talking, something wild slams into the scene and cuts the moment short. At the back of the room, someone rockets through the air, then lands light as a feather right between the Lyre and the confident one, moving like a pro, and declares, I am Keela. He stares her down, his eyes getting stuck on those cat-like ears. Then they twitch out of nowhere, and before he can stop himself, he blurts out whether she's a cat breed. A serious look hardens on the Lyre's face as he admits that a bunch of people, yeah, even some guild clients, can't stand this race. Keela shoots Lyra a quick glance and says it feels weird, and Shura's stomach drops with this thought. How could anyone ever hate a race this sweet? Hearing that, Keela breaks into a grin, starts bragging right away, and admits those words made her blush. Lyre says it with pride. Keela is their scout. He drives the squad ahead, spots traps before they hit, and scouts the area with ruthless precision. Locked in captivity, Keela shrugs and admits she fights like a menace, with a bow in one hand and a dagger in the other. Shiro tells her it's cool, and her face lights up with pride, because she confidently declares this is just the start, and she's got way more in her than that. Then he glares at her hard and realizes she's the same. She bolts faster than everyone else, and as she runs off, the cat in her arms just grumbles that it didn't need to be said out loud. The guild master slams his hands together, roars out that it's time to go, and asks Shiro straight up, did he get everything ready? Shiro blurts that he's raring to go. Lyra grins at his wild energy, and they both set their sights on the eastern forest, and rushes up to the bar, freezes for a split second, then yanks the door open. Once the drunk man hauls himself upright, he wobbles forward, spots her, and freezes, like she's ripped from his past. Then he reaches for the girl's face and blurts out that he once promised he'd do this. The second the door shuts, Shur locks eyes with the fearless, confident stares of his new crew, Rolf the warrior monk, Nesku the sorceress, Keela the scout, and Liara, the brave leader. Lyre stares ahead at the adventure coming next, praying the whole journey stays perfectly smooth. The crew forms a tight single file on the skinny forest path. Keela leads from the front, and everyone creeps forward with bated breath, laser-focused on every shadow and sound around them. Shiru's nerves are all over the place, but Liara clocks it instantly. She reassures him and promises they'll dodge monsters whenever they can. Shiru exhales like a weight's lifted, then gratefully thanks her. As they head down the path, Lyra keeps grumbling that herb collecting is pure boredom, while Keela shoots back that she already grabbed some. But the Efkasians are furious because the herbs they need are rare, and they can't track them down anywhere, until the monk steps in and promises that once they find them, they'll finally be able to finish their work. With the sky turning dark and nerves on fire, just like in Nesca Warren, Lyra wrestled her worry, then chose to stop right here for the night. Shura jolts, blinks in disbelief, and asks if they're stopping too soon, only for the warrior to grin and tell him that every traveler has to grab rest the moment it's there. Shura got choked up by those wise words, fighting back tears as he remembered his old boss had never once spoken like that. Lyre slams out the order to get the camp ready, and Sheru and Keela sprint off to gather firewood. While Rolf hacked down young trees with an axe, Lair struck a match and bragged to Shura that things like this were just too convenient. The priest bows with heartfelt gratitude and genuinely thanks your sponsor for the supplies you received. Lyre blurts out that he can cash in and get filthy rich selling matches in the capital. Rolf nods, but he shoots back a warning, If the trade association catches wind of this, trouble could explode. Liar breaks into laughter and claims the priest's predictions almost always land dead on, and it's that terrifying accuracy that leaves Shura utterly impressed. Neska trudges over, grumbling about being starving and those gray larks, then shouts for everyone to dig in after the walk through the glade. Shiri just watches as Neska tears into a bite of bread, eyeing every detail, her simple meal of stale bread and dried meat. I'm genuinely shocked that even seasoned travelers can still get blown away by something as simple as that. Keela locks eyes with him, asks if he's eaten yet, then snatches a bite of meat and offers it right up to him. Shur politely refuses, thanks her, and says he already grabbed everything he needs before snapping his bag shut. Liar stares, hooked with curiosity, while Ralph actually gapes when she reveals what's inside, because the leader can't wrap his head around the fact that it's real food. Everyone stares in stunned silence at the supplies. Shiro digs out canned goods, instant noodles, and a whole bunch of cookies. Neska gulped hard with nerves, and Lur shot her a question. So you're really gonna eat all of this by yourself? And the guy grinned and said he brought snacks for everyone. The whole team's stunned, and then Shur drops the truth. He's testing fresh products for his store, and he just wants to hear what they think. They stall for a second, but Laird declares they're free samples. Then everyone erupts with cheers and barrels in to grab a taste. Lyra snatches ramen in one move, while Hyla grabs a rice cake. Rolf shoves a bun into her hands, while Neska lunges for that cookie like it's priceless. Everyone's freaking out over the taste. Shur beams as she watches them dive in, grinning because she can tell just how much they love it. They crumpled onto the floor, stuffed to the brim, and Neska clutched a candy tight, swearing she'd remember that chocolate taste forever. Ralph clutches the cross to his chest, tears burning in his eyes, and swears it's holy grace. They drift off peacefully, and Neska murmurs something about chocolate in her sleep. Liar strides up to Shura and tells him to take a break too. Shur cracks that he's never been good at going to bed early, and the deceiver leans in, offering, "Come on, talk to me." Shiro locks eyes with the young man as he hands over a treat, and as he stares into his own reflection in the teacup, he notices something odd. These travelers don't pack sleeping bags at all. One of them grins and explains they keep it that way so they can spring into action the moment danger hits. The liar tucks the sorceress under a blanket, then freezes when he realizes one won't cut it in winter, so he stuffs on more, only to realize it would crush her under all that weight. He lets out a heavy sigh, wishing he could preserve things like a pro, then butter slathers his tea the moment he hears it. Curiosity burns in him as he blurts out, "So how does this space storage thing even work?" Lying isn't something most people can pull off. It's a rare gift, like finding a needle in a haystack, held by just 1 in 100,000. Liar says there's a book with this exact skill tucked away in the old dungeon, yet Shira just swallows his shock, because he's already got that book. He casually asks the warrior how much a find like that would cost, and the warrior gapes in surprise. What's he even talking about? It's meant to hold up an entire crew, and it sits right by that massive estate. Shiro Pales nodded like, "Yep, this is it." But the price tag for Laird Mitza is so brutal it dwarfs anything he could ever pull in by himself. The merchant grins to himself, already plotting to roll the dice again later. When Shiro said he was heading to sleep, Lur suddenly snapped into alert mode, felt danger, and yanked his sword out, leaving Shiro stunned. Shiro blurted, confused, what was going on, but Lur didn't answer. He just motioned, silent and sharp, for Shiro to stay quiet. He rips Keela and Ralph awake, while Shira strains to haul the sorceress up, because he can already feel something closing in. We're gearing them up for the monster's attack. The layer hears the sorceress mutter about chocolate in her sleep, like her dreams have a sweet tooth. Shur grabbed Neska and shook her hard, yelling that she had to toss her sweet dreams aside because this was deadly urgent. So Neska jolted awake, blinked twice, and stared back with her usual emotionless look. Killa sniffs the air like something's hunting her, and Lair clocks it instantly, then asks if she senses anything. The scout creases his brow and blurts a warning. This is way too dangerous, because the wind steals the monster's sound. Ralph realizes they're staring at something insanely smart, like the smartest mind in the room. And Liar pushes Neska to cast the spell, even while drowsiness weighs her down. Right as she's about to move, a vicious rumble suddenly crashes through the air. The warrior snapped around in shock and threw himself into a combat stance, eyes blazing wide, because a massive, deadly bear loomed right in front of him. Lyra snaps into a serious assessment and declares their silver-ranked team can't stand up to this beast, while Shirer shakes with pure terror at its massive size. Then the leader blurts that they should run. Ralph slams in and insists escaping is a dead end, because only Killa can pull it off, all thanks to her deadly cat-like agility, to take down the butcher who refused to abandon her companions. When the priest snaps that the battle can't be won, and the scout starts trembling with pure fear, Layar stays stone calm. The bear snarls and shakes the ground like it's about to lunge, while the heroes freeze, panicking over their next move. Ralph Grayly leans in and says someone has to be bait. And Lyra catches the tension in him. She's hunting his every reaction, clocking every tiny detail like it matters. Either you're a total beginner, or you're the kind of person who hates adventures, and that's the only two options you've got. Seining is 100% sure they're going to pick him. When Lear yanks him by the shoulder, he braces for the apology he thinks will come after he's been sacrificed. Lair snapped an order, shocks him, get Nesca and Kilo out of here, while Lair and Rolf charged in to keep the monster busy. Lyra threw an apology at Rolf, but he only grinned and waved it off, telling her not to stress after such a brutal long journey. She clocks their decision instantly, before he even opens his mouth. Nesca steps up and declares she's going to fight too, but the warrior cuts in fast, snapping that her pace is so slow it'll only get in the way. Then the liar jokes that he wants to win her over before his final moment, grins at the sorceress, and tells her to step back. She snaps that he's a fool while staring him down. He steels himself, tells Ralph to patch him up if he can survive the first hit. The cleric nods, then sends him off with a good luck. Lur grins and swears he'll spring the trap, and the second it snaps shut, everybody has to bolt, no waiting. Killy's eyes flare wide. She snaps a warning as something sneaks up behind her. Layer can't bring herself to trust herself. She's terrified she might not be worthy of trust. But when he peered into the dark forest, he finally saw the truth. She was right. They got boxed in by two savage bears, and their thunderous roars slammed through the air all around them. Nesca stuttered back as the leader barked orders for her and Killy to get ready to bolt, and Raoul steadied him, swearing he'd stay with the rest and buy them time by holding the enemies back. Anna trembles, then shuts them down with total confidence. There's no escape, we're doomed. Monsters are closing in at lightning speed, and the crew realizes they're trapped with nowhere left to run. Shira's heart was hammering, and just like that he remembered his grandmother's words, never lose hope, even when the world turns pitch black. So he tore into his backpack, and Lyre gasped, stunned, "What are you doing?" The warrior screams at him to run, but Shir refuses to back up. He locks eyes with the killer bear and stands his ground. Then he hurls something at it, and the creature instantly seizes up, its body hardening like stone frozen mid-action, as if an invisible power slammed the brakes just before the blast would have hit. The fireworks suddenly burst, blasting the monster, and the entire company goes dead silent, stunned out of their minds. Sherry snatches the moment, rockets toward the monster, and snarls that the bear is going to regret messing with her. He doesn't hesitate. He whips out the spray can and blasts it straight into the beast's face. Numbra freezes for a split second, then surges forward again. Stunned by how crazy powerful that spray paint is, the hypocrite steps in closer and blurts out, "Is this some kind of magic?" Shiro smirks, shrugs it off as just a special tool, then lifts the jar and tells us, once that lid pops, a deadly poison comes roaring out. The merchant screams for everyone to run right now, but the liar barrels in and cuts him off mid-sentence. Tell me, did the poison hit that monster's eyes and nose? If it did, we're not wasting this perfect chance. The group clicks into place fast, then they gear up to strike, right after that brutal battle. They smash the monsters to pieces, then burst into wild cheers, celebrating their win deep in the forest. Lyre snaps that it's go time, split the bear meat now and crush every last danger before it can bite back. Meanwhile, Shira seizes the moment to needle Lair and bluntly asks if he's fallen headfirst for Nesk. The warrior wizards flush with embarrassment, instantly blush, and demand to know what Shiro means. He throws it back in their faces, like, "Remember when the liars said I wanted to wow that scared girl?" The group leader just shuts it down, shrugs it off, and tries to steer the conversation somewhere else. They slip together, pack up the meat and every valuable part, then stash it away to cash out at the market later. Ralph grabs control, then splits the job with ruthless efficiency. One person peels off the monster's skin, another chops and separates the meat, and someone else hauls in the claws. Keela leans in with sharp curiosity, asking what they're gonna do with the bear's lower half. The priest snaps back that medicine can be made from them, then leans in and orders her to cut his ingredients off. The biggest one on here is Shira Gorify. Lyre closes in on Shura with a grim look and demands, "Can we talk, right now? It's important." Lyre snaps that Shira needs to stop scavenging herbs right now and come back to the city with him. Point at the dead bear and tell him the merchant wants to offload those materials fast, before they start to rot. After all, they're way more valuable than any rare herb out there. Shiori's jaw dropped when Brickhan swaggered in and claimed half the loot was his. They swear that without the Shuru thing, they wouldn't be alive anymore. Clutching the canister, he figured it had to be ridiculously expensive. But Shiro Kanchim insists the real treasure isn't the power or the plan, it's the fact that they're still alive. Shiro's words flood the liar with warmth, and he can't help but smile, praising Shiro's kindness like it's the best thing that ever happened to him. Meanwhile, Kella abruptly halted, then bolted straight at Shur and blurted out how insanely incredible he is. Shur just slips out of the way of every hug. Keela faceplants into the bushes head first, and Nesca and the merchant just stand there, staring in disbelief. The witch nods right away, then admits she honestly believes Shira is a good guy too. Ralph says the world would be way better off if it had more traitors like him. A shy soul's cheeks explode into a blush. The second praise hits their ears. The cool guy translates everything, locks eyes with the liar and lays it out. He gets it. They've got to get back to the city. Want to grab the trophies from that dead bear with me. Liar grins and taunts Shira's strength, but he never even gets to finish his sentence. Shira snaps open her spatial storage power and rips a portal straight into reality. The group freezes in shock, and when Shuru clocks their faces, he blurts out an apology for not saying it sooner. The false witness snaps back to reality fast, then blurts that everything's fine, because they already owe him their lives. Right as he's about to walk out the door, the deceiver slams in and stops him cold. He realized that with his power to keep things intact, the mission could roll on without stopping. Shira doesn't even get a chance to argue. Bam, she's yanked straight into 2 more days of chaos, and only then do they finally stagger back to the city. And with pure joy blazing in his chest, he agrees, because seeing Shira again has him over the moon. Liar Curios leans in and asks if she's Shura's daughter, and Shura cuts in fast. She's not family, she's just his assistant at the store. The warrior steps forward and introduces himself with razor-sharp politeness. Shira hands Anna the store key and orders her to stay put right there. Next, the whole crew barrels to the Silver Moon Guild to finish their mission. But the moment they step inside, they find Emo slumped on the floor, sobbing her heart out, begging her husband, "Just give me more time, I'll find the money." We think it'll be smooth sailing, but the moment things kick off, the story yanks us into a non-stop whirlwind of trouble. The man is screaming at Amal, furious that he's heard the same empty promises for months, and this time, he's not letting it slide because he's waited way too long. She whips around to Liar and demands, "Who's that man?" Liar answers, "That's Gerald, the materials merchant who once worked with the old guild head." A young man strides up to Gerald and introduces himself, like the start of a new problem just dropped into the room, and demands a conversation, begging them to finally see what's really going on. Gerald yanks off his hat, greets everyone, and says he loaned the guild 10 gold coins. Then when the debt's still unpaid, he slams down the truth. He's taking the building as collateral. He flashes the contract stamped by the Silver Moon Guild, and Emo instantly drops his gaze. Gerald demands the cash, no payment, no mercy, because he'll seize this property and the land all around it. Gerald says if he sells the building together with the land, it might finally cover his losses. And he orders Emo on the spot, "Bring those property documents right now." She shoots back with total confidence, "No way, not for any price." And when the guild already turned her down, the man demands to know why she still clings to that role. It's basically screaming, "Just let it go," because there's nothing left to cling to, no hope, no future. Emma snaps her head up, seriousness blazing in her eyes. She's ready to lay it all out, and she tells them this isn't just about duty. Shura and Lyra can't stop grinning as they watch the whole thing unfold in pure excitement. Amal explains that as a half-breed outcast everyone shunned, the Guild of Silver Huns was the one place he could call home. For the first time in her life, she didn't just belong, she felt like she was living inside something huge. She looks back on that place and remembers the highs and the lows, yet somehow, the good times still hit harder in her heart. She gazes at him with soft intensity and vows, "I'm not letting this go." Even after it all, Shuru spots her grit, and the moment hits her like a wave, pulling her memory back. She still remembers that 5 years ago, his entire family packed into Grandma's house like something big was about to happen. 2 whole years have ripped by since she vanished without a trace, and now he can't even hold on to all the memories. But then it hits him. His mother warned that one day she'd have to sell this place, because keeping it just wouldn't make sense anymore. Hearing that, he crumpled to his knees at once and pleaded with her, begging her not to do it. It was right in this house that every last memory of his grandmother was locked away. Shame burned in his chest as everyone watched, and the whole bunch of relatives went wide-eyed at his emotional outburst. Shur strides forward with full confidence, while Lur blurts out in shock, "What are you about to do?" Gerald tells Emo that emotions don't change a thing. If there's a contract, you fulfill it. Emo doesn't show a shred of feeling and just answers, "I understand," then leans in to listen. The Major is seconds away from handing over the ownership documents. But Shiro cuts her off and shoots, "Can I buy something from you right now?" Gerald's eyes blow wide with pure shock as he grips the killer bear's skin in his hands. He snaps into recognition of that rare substance at once, and just by the color alone, he realizes it's from a whole rarer species than he ever imagined. The merchant leaned in, all smiles, and practically begged Shai to sell it to him. But this guy shoots back politely, saying it's strictly for the guild. Amal admits she can't afford it, but Shiro tells her, "Pay me later, whenever it's convenient, no rush." Lyra, moved by Shura's kindness, decides she'll match it. She steps up and offers the exact same deal. The warrior tells Amal, "Don't worry, you'll pay me later." And the girl, letting out a shaky little stutter, beams as she gratefully takes in that amazing generosity. Gerald snaps his head toward Emo and demands she sell him her skin for 32 gold coins. But she snaps with rage and refuses outright, swearing it'll cost 36 coins. The merchant frets and double-checks the price with shaky fingers, but after the bargaining hits its mark, every last guild debt gets wiped clean, and once the dust settles, Emel walks away with 26 gold coins. Then the bear slammed 2 more coins into the pot, so the Silver Moon Guild now sits on a shiny total of 28. Gerald takes a final bow and says goodbye, grinning like every single thing turned out exactly right. He tells her he can't wait for their next deal, then hits her with the truth. This is her final chance. She drops into a bow and bursts out her thanks for everything he did to help. But the whole team won't let it go. They're convinced Shiro genuinely earned their gratitude. They were just out there doing their job as adventurers. No pause, no fear, all action. Soon, Lyra snaps and reminds them they're still stuck waiting for the mission to be finished. Emel Fries scans the room, totally baffled, and blurts out to Shura, "Wait, did you come for this mission too?" He casually asks if he should head out, and she tells him his job's already finished, then pushes him to go. Lee shoots back, claiming the whole job is to keep him safe, so he orders him to stay right beside him. Emil frantically waves his hands, insisting he's already safe, then scrambles to dodge the conversation before it goes any further. But the warrior won't let it go. He demands to know whether she's already blown the mission money, and the second those words hit, Emily's answers start tripping over themselves as confusion takes over. Emil shot down the accusation with full confidence, swearing he never misused a single cent. But the scammer snarls that she must pay right now, while the entire company sticks to their price, 30 silver coins for the job. No kidding, now I have asterisk to know what that amount really is. The liar from Listen snaps that he won't settle for less for work this important, and the young man fires back that it has nothing to do with the money at all. He forked over 100 silver coins, then couldn't shake the nagging thought, were those extra 70 a scam dressed up as a deal? They lock eyes and Emil tries to slip off unnoticed, but Lyra cuts her off, plants herself in her way, and demands answers. The witch jabs her staff into the ground, scrawling a blazing circle as she threatens to torch the rabbit girl, while Keela stands right there with arms crossed, glaring like she's fed up. Even Ralph radiates this razor-sharp threat that makes the room feel dangerous. And Lur snaps his fingers and declares that no one can just shrug it off and call it forgiven. The whole team barrels straight toward the guildmaster, and fear hits him hard. He panics, bolts away, and scrambles to outrun their wrath. He exhales in pure relief, realizing just how lucky he is that he didn't bring Anna along. I'm honestly grateful I managed to catch the real heart of it all through those messages. Inside the shop, Anna swept the stairs and greeted Shura with a bright, ready smile. Her face practically glows as she leans in and can't wait to hear how his adventures went. He blurts out that it's unbelievable and says he'll tell her the whole tale. She lights up and gladly leans in to hear every word. And just like that, they lay every detail out, confessing the last few days have been brutally hard. But Anna can't take her eyes off him. She cheers his bravery as he dares to face that terrifying killer bear head-on. Flustered, Chiru blurts out that it was the Azure Flash team who actually took down the bear, and he only pitched in a little. She swears she's the only reason they didn't get crushed, claiming, "Without me, you would have lost everything." Then a knock hits the door, and someone yells his name like they're calling him to battle. The second he swings the door open, Sankara is right there. She tackles him into a tight, unstoppable hug. He shoves his face into her chest as she sobs, and the mayor rushes over like, "Are you all right?" because she basically wrecked the bear during the whole task. Just as he starts to choke and suffocate, Sankara snaps into action. She clocks that he's starved for air, and panic hits her hard. It feels like an invisible hand is choking him, so he jerks back fast and shoves Shura away, letting him gulp air again. He tells her to breathe, says those travelers saved him, and the second Sankaras hears it, relief floods her as she exhales in a long, shaky sigh. She finally settled down, leaned in, and grilled him on how the mission went, then demanded to know if he'd snagged anything truly valuable on the road with the blue spark. Shira nods along and says, "If the goods hit on time, everyone's going to come running, because I'm gearing up to shock the whole crew with brand new products." Wearing a calm face, the mayor fires off his words again, telling Shira he's done hiding what he really does. When she got close, she leaned in and whispered, "So what's your deal? Can you actually store stuff, or is that power coming from some special item?" She comes back deathly pale and dodges the question like it might burn her. He demands to know what she means, but Sankara only grins and tells him he won't be played. Then she shrugs and admits it's a rare gift, yet she's already crossed paths with others who can do the same. That's exactly how she saw it, and the moment she met him for the first time, she knew there was something special about him. Sherevs barely blinked before he knew something was off, and the cornered young man snapped in, agreeing with Nishchai as he wondered if it was women's intuition at work. But the mayor snaps back with a blunt no, then admits she only spun the lie to prove her theory, because the truth is, she never actually knew anyone else without powers at all. She couldn't shake the feeling that, from the very start, he was racking up one ridiculous coincidence after another. Shira froze for half a second, then blurted out in shock, like something hit her all at once. Sanka hooks a hand on Ella's shoulder and warns him that in business, people don't always mean what they say, so he better guard his secrets like his life depends on it. The young man finally fesses up. He'd been careless, and swears he'll stay sharp from now on so he never trips up like that again. Sankara fires off a question about what new things he's about to sell, and before you know it, Anna jumps in too, saying she's got her eye on them as well. With a locked-in, mysterious stare, the mole flips the moment on its head and reveals something wild. The mayor is totally stunned. He can't wrap his head around the fact that this is actually happening. Soon, Sanka finally lets out a breath of relief and stretches wide, grinning like he just pulled off 3 solid working days in a row. Right then, a liar barges into the store, greets everyone with a smile, and demands to know if everything's really all right. After he finishes the task, he rushes to the shop to see how everything's going. Then Meska slides in behind him, greets the merchant softly, and warms the room with a friendly smile. The warrior cranes his eyes around and grins. This store is so spotless and perfectly tidy, it feels unreal. And Shira Straytup says Anna's the one who deserves the credit for cleaning up everything lately. He watches for a bit, then spots it. When the sorceress's shyness kicks in, she tugs the liar along by the sleeve. The way they talk to each other totally gives it away. They've started dating, and I'm seriously over the moon about it. Lur can't help a little envy, but he swears M told him this. An important adventurer's guild figure is headed straight for their city. The merchant straight up confirms it, and Lair says he's praying this is a reliable guild. Right away, it spikes Shira's curiosity. He corners the traveler and snaps, asking if certain guilds aren't exactly telling the truth. Lyra nods and tells him straight up, even the mightiest guilds can still get a nasty reputation. They've got warriors with wild names, Click Venendraken and the Devil's Trident. But he swears the Labyrinth from the Rotters is the absolute worst, and Meskin just nods like he already knew. Anna's eyes widen as she remembers. This is the exact guild Sankara was talking about earlier. For one tense beat, the whole room goes quiet, and Shiro lanes in, demanding to know if the mayor ever heard the guild's nasty reputation. Lyre admits she might have never truly had it in the first place. Even as an adventurer, you'll still struggle to track down news like that in a tiny town. Sherry figures there are no phones or social networks around here, so it's no wonder you never get every piece of information. He's bracing for trouble the moment the guild shows up, praying it all ends well, especially if St. Cora is going to be okay. Anna asks why the guild rep is late, and can't help worrying he got lost on the way. She can't shake the feeling he's doing it on purpose, but Shira stays cool and says maybe he got distracted. Still, that road from the other city isn't exactly hard. But nothing's confirmed yet, and Sankara's been posted at the city gates since yesterday, waiting and watching. The kid blurts that it'd be way better if he showed up already, and he nods along, agreeing. Suddenly ding, the bell slices through the air like the day is over, and Shira tells Anna, that's it for today, while Anna just nods like she gets it. A young man waves goodbye to a smiling customer, key in hand, telling himself it's still early, until he's already decided to shut the store down. Right as he reaches for the lock, bam, a knock hits the door and he swings it open. He's got to track down a long-haired girl in a uniform holding two sabers, and when she locks eyes with him, her serious stare doesn't break. She just bows politely, admits she's late, and tells him to show her what he's got. Shine tells her she can explore as much as she wants, then snaps the matchbox open in a flash. The girl leans in, intrigued, and he practically dares her to try it herself. A spark of pure excitement ignites in her eyes. Her face lights up instantly as she blurts out that she's heard tons of rumors about this product, and now she can't believe how incredible it really is. She demands another package, blurts out what's inside, and they tell her it's a rescue blanket, way better at holding off the cold than anything regular. He wraps her up in it, and as he does, he remembers the wild start, how the adventures and even the mayor himself couldn't get enough of him. The girl flashes a surprised smile. She can't believe it feels so warm and cozy, even with clothes this thin. Then the girl leans in and points at a new exhibit, and Sir nods like, "Yep, this one's a mind-bending, super complex water bottle." He excitedly drags out even more products, and she leans in, all ears. Then she thanks him for the explanation, smiles and bolts because she's already running late for her meeting. He blurted out a quick goodbye and bolted forward, leaving Shiro and Trit eating his dust behind him. A few days later, Anna storms into the store, bellows Shiro's name at the top of her lungs, and her face screams panic. Shiro is stunned, and the moment the boy hears her, he blurts, "What happened?" Meanwhile, Sanka strolls the city streets when a total stranger closes in sharp as a blade, demanding, "Are you the mayor?" with a threatening glare. He finally blurts out that he's an inspector from the Adventurers Guild in the capital, and Sankara's whole body goes cold, because she knows trouble is about to explode. Sharavane Hannah sprinted toward the meeting point, stunned. He'd expected to meet the guy, but not this soon. He wanted Sankara to first wander the city with him through the market, then finally head to Shiri's shop. But the moment they reach the place, everything flips upside down in ways they never saw coming. Shir bursts in and freezes at the chaos, because Anna is already telling him, with zero time to waste, that they desperately need his help. Inside the Silver Moon Guild, he spots Sankara looking sick and watches the Azure Lightning team simmer with anger. A shadowy figure stands with its back to Shiro, and in that instant, he can't help but wonder, is that the inspector? Sankara leans in and tells Shura, straight up, that handling this guy isn't simple, then urges him to stay calm before everything spirals. Even when they push her, she can feel her hands shake, even as she fights to hide it. Then she flashes a confident smile, steady from all the times she's dealt with monsters of the humankind, and she plants her feet and refuses to back down. Sankara lets out a breath of relief and ushers Shura in front of Gabais, the guild inspector from the capital. Her tone stays cool, but the tension hums beneath every word as she declares, "Shura, you're the pride of this city." Then he steps up and greets Gabby and Anna, but the inspector just smirks in disbelief, like he's waiting to find some seasoned traitor stepping up to the plate. He jeered that Anna was a rookie Shura hired, and Anna's courage crumbled. She backed up fast, terrified. Meanwhile, Shir forces a smile on her face to bury her irritation deep. Gab keeps a sharp eye on the Silver Moon Guild, muttering that it's filthy in there, and sneering that the half-breeds can't even keep it clean properly. Till snaps back irritably, saying she cleans every single day with her spare time. Gabai sneers at her hard work, refusing to believe it, while Sankara watches it all, fury roaring inside him as he barely holds it back. Jebai's running an ad that drags people who can't work through the mud, and he's convinced they don't deserve to live. Kilo and Ale are shaking with pure rage, but the mayor steps in fast and promises to show the man his garden shears. He studies the matches up close, and for the very first time, pure awe lights up his face. He points out that this product is at least solidly made, and it even tugs a 10kr smile back onto his face with fresh hope. But Jebasun just slams the map to the floor, drops into a chair, and announces he's about to open a branch of labyrinth robbers right in the city. Sankara reels in shock as Ale urges him to toss a match into the guild, but Gabas just brushes her off. Then the inspector steps in with ironclad demands. His guild gets to run the city, and every other guild has to shut down on the spot. He shoots Isle a malicious glare and demands to know why her tiny, puny guild thinks it has anything to say. A furious girl tries to make her case, insisting his name is Silvermoon, but before she can finish, someone cuts her off and says the name changes nothing. He's still gotta be shut down. Angry Mill lunges at him, but Shankara yanks her back again as the inspector keeps pressing for what he's owed, and Shankara refuses to back down, demanding a full tax exemption. He claims this little town offers him nothing, Then he demands cold cash so he can build a brand new guild. Then he swagger smirks and demands sole control over selling matches, insisting every last box of Shira's stock is now his, before he drops a few crates onto the table like it's nothing. The Shrike just stares at him, completely baffled, like it can't wrap its head around why he's even doing this. Gebisles closes in on the young man, eyes blazing as he questions whether he's truly a merchant, then sneers and calls him a fool, pushing the inspector's nerves over the edge. Closing in, he blurts out that he's here to buy every single maff share the store has. Sankar lunges to step in, then shoots her a condescending look and asks coldly what she wants. The mayor snaps that he won't sell out to just one company, no matter how good it sounds for the city. But Gabos bursts into laughter at her naivety, saying that the NRI's remote location strangles trade before it can even start. But his guild can ship supplies all across the kingdom, and that sneaky grin on his face screams one thing: he's only in it for the money. So Shura clocks every bit of it at once. Shiru crosses his arms, eyes lighting up at the offer, then shuts it down. He's not interested, and he makes it clear the goods come with strict limits, so he refuses to sell everything to just one guild. Sankar lets out a shaky breath and declares he won't let anyone open a branch in the city. Then Gibbis's face twists in pure, blazing rage. Rage tore through him as he hurled a glass bottle at Sankara, only to miss, and then he screamed, demanding to know who they thought he was. He's already smugly certain the city's guild will crumble on its own, while the liars ignite the simmers into fury, and he just watches it all unfold. Shirin sucked in a deep breath, burst inside, and ordered everyone to stop. Then he jabbed a finger at the nearby forest, monsters and all, and pointed out the rare herbs, claiming this spot was pure gold for the city. He says this is where travelers set up camp and use the place as their home base. But he just let out a mocking laugh, then snatched Sheru by the tie. Go ahead, call him a fool, and act like these city adventures are just a joke with zero future. People claim you can't make real money in big cities, so they packed up and came here, choosing spots where the competition is basically non-existent. Nesk Agro seethes with rage, and the liar throws his hands up, signaling her to calm down. Her aura surges higher, and everyone nearby suddenly feels that unstoppable power pressing down on them. Ivas keeps talking, slamming the city's price as absurd, and that sparks instant fury in the mayor and Mel. He leans into Shura, grilling him on what he's going to do, pushing the idea that the branch in Mini could save the city. Shira holds the fate of the future in her hands. Everything now hinges on her. The young man begged for a moment to think, but the answer snapped back fast. No delay, not even for a second. The inspector smirks, flicks his finger at Anna, and tells her, if she says yes, he'll swap her for someone with real experience, not just a girl. Shira goes dead quiet for a beat, then Aisley leans in and fires off. What did Jib just say? Confident he's running the show, Gabos fires off the same boast again, claiming he can swap out that unnecessary boy and the filthy half-humans for real workers. Right then, Shur snatches control of the furrier for a split second, then wham, he decks Jevis across the face and sends him crashing backward. Shur stumbles back, barks in fury, and the next heartbeat he's sprinting forward, tackling the man as everyone else stares in total shock at what's unfolding. In the middle of a brutal argument, Sheriff gets hit with that same familiar feeling again, the exact jolt he felt the day he walked away from his job. Then the manager started ridiculing the new employee, right in front of Shura, until Shura snapped and stepped in, unable to take it anymore. Gabai can't stop replaying what his old boss spat at him in rage. He smashed the inspector in one brutal hit, then bolted away like the law was on fire. The Azure Flash crew stares in pure shock as Imal stands nearby, watching it all unfold. Sankara is visibly rattled as she steps up and shoots, asking whether Gabais has been acting weird around her. The mayor freezes for a beat, then awkwardly blurts out the truth. Gabas had been harassing her. Rage floods Shura's face as he yanks Jebus up by the hair, and Sankar drops to his knees, begging him to stop, because at this point, none of it even makes sense. And right here, Father Ralph gets completely turned around, shouting for Shura, and when Shura scans his surroundings, he hears Ralph's desperate plea. So even though Ralph's only got help to offer, Shura nods and drags the inspector right back on the move. He drags his memory back to the moment he walked out of his job, and how he acted right before he left. With Ralph Schur backing him up, Hoist turned on us, betrayed us right to our faces. He slams headfirst into the guild's counter with everything he's got, and the floor actually trembles from the impact. Shira flashes a confident smile and says she hates violence, but when it matters, she won't back down. Don't let anyone try to shame your employee. The moment Sankari and Anne see them using the mayor, their hearts get wrecked in the best way, because tears instantly flood their eyes. Shur slams into Gabos once more, and fires back that he's too weak to stay quiet about it. Rash rockets up to Shiro, throws her arms around him, and breaks down sobbing. Jevies erupts with rage, storms up and roars that he'll take revenge on the city, boasting at the top of his lungs. Gabas struts around like the Labyrinth Raiders' boss, then dares everyone to question him. But St. Car glares at him and snaps, asking if he truly wants to kick off a war against her city. The mayor warns that if things spiral out of control, she'll run straight to the territory's ruler, Marcus Bashar. The inspector's face drains of color, his words trip over themselves, and he scrambles backward like he's trying to escape the truth. He tells them, "Give me first dibs on the match sale, and I'll act like this never happened." Shira Yanks is convinced Gabo's got hearing issues because he never even reacts to her, like she's invisible. Shiri refuses to sell outright and growls a warning. Anyone trying to pull a clever stunt better watch out, because the Jibus Guild will be smashed. Sankara and the adventurer hold their ground. Shiro roars, demanding, "Did you get it, Jevis?" And Jevis crumples straight to his knees. He asks for a deal, but she shuts him down and vows to pick her business partners way more carefully from now on. Gaba Skiff strides up to the skiers and demands they sit down. Then he pushes for a talk about the guild's division. But Sankar just shrugs it off and pays it zero mind. Layer bursts into loud laughter and needles Gibbos, smugly calling out that his greed left him with literally nothing. The inspector snaps at Lyra to shut up, rage flashing in his eyes as he denounces him as a worthless adventurer. Lyra yanks Gabas by the collar and clamps a hand over his mouth, demanding silence. But Shiro begs Lyra to cool it and stop turning to violence, and Lyra shoots back that Shiro isn't exactly innocent since he's already hit Gabas. Then they boot him out, spitting, "You're worthless," at Skibbs as they send him packing. The warrior jabs his finger at the capital, snaps with rage, and storms off without a word. Emo and Ralph Grumble aren't satisfied with just that liar label. They're craving something bigger. But the mayor shrugs and tells everyone to ignore the drama, because Sankara Glands is a solid roof you can trust when things hit the fan. Sudden knocks hammer the door, and the liar's attention snaps to it. He grunts in irritation, already assuming Gabby has come back. But the second he swings the door open, he spots a girl already inside Shuru's workshop, somehow, and she begs to be let in, grinning as she says she knows the mayor is here. This is exactly what dragged her here. She instantly clocks the girl's face, and Sankara steps in to introduce himself. Then his mind races. What's this stranger's name? The girl finally blurts it out. She's Mirage, the envoy of the Guild of Transitions. Liar's eyes flare wide the second they realize that name carries real weight. Shankara leans in and demands to know why Mirage showed up. Raja grins and confidently declares she wants to open a guild branch in Nika, then shoots a quick request for a favor. She stays ice calm as Sankara eyes her like she's up to something, wondering if she truly came up with the whole branch idea herself. Shiro's got a shadowy setup behind him, Imavaru Sankara, and trust me, it could be a total con, so you'd better stay on guard. A mirage flickered for a heartbeat, then whirled around and shot her hand out. Emil's hands shook as she blurted, all fired up, whether the rabbit girl worked for the guild, and the rabbit girl yelped and jumped back in pure shock. But right before she could even answer, Nay cut in and told her, "I wanna talk to you too." Nye told everyone that once the Silver Moon Guild joins forces with hers, Emel's paycheck shoots up in a big way. She shot her hand high in the air and promised a massive salary bump. Then Emo followed it with her stare, her heart hammering and her eyes snapping wide in shock. Curios the rabbit couldn't stop worrying if her salary would actually jump. Then Nay stepped in and promised her, right away, she'd get 5 times more starting now. With a confident grin, Nay made it crystal clear she wasn't joking. Emo recoiled and stumbled back, then dropped to one knee and pledged his respect. Next, Nay declared that the Silver Moon Guild would fuse into Fairy Blessing as a brand new branch. Her voice shook with raw emotion, and she grabbed Nay by the legs, pleading with the mayor, "Let me make my choice." Sankar went wide-eyed, totally thrown by what he just heard, and after a beat, the mayor set out to get Shira's take on it. The young man folded his arms and insisted they should hear Nay's plan out first before anyone makes a call, and San Cardina nodded right away, inviting everyone into her office for the talk. Everyone sat there clutching cups of tea, while the mayor leaned in and pressed Nay, asking why she'd chosen that path. A few days back, Nye heard that adventurers stumbled on a dungeon, and inside was a weird map showing a whole continent nobody had ever heard of. Nye's convinced that map was dropped by an ancient civilization that mastered magic. Her eyes lit up like fireworks when she said it, and as Shira and Sankara stared, Nace's smile vanished. Seriousness hit her face, because this was where the real discovery would be announced. On the map, the ancient sites deep in the forest to the east of the city were clearly marked. Maybe it was the Lost Kingdoms. She slapped the map flat on the table and pinned it down with both palms. Sankara gasped, shaking with disbelief, asking if that rumor was really true. With a confident nod, he swore it's true. Those marauders from the labyrinth are already eyeing the city, ready to snatch the ruins for themselves. She snatched a tiny figurine off the table, flipped it in her hand, and the truth hit. Those attackers were already beaten. They wanted to snatch total control, but the inspector's rules were so tight they slammed the brakes on that plan. Meanwhile, the Negrand and Setter Guild stepped up and offered the city to work together for real, honest research. After thinking it through, they finally locked in. This city is exactly where they need to be, because it's perfectly placed, and it has one special detail that makes it all click. Shira leaned in, eager to know what makes this city so special. Nay smiled, and said it all comes down to the silvery moon that bathes the streets in light, and that's why it stands out above everything else. If they get the nod, they can plug it into the fair's blessing like a shortcut, no rebuilding from the ground up, so the restoration rockets forward. Shiri's shop left a massive impression on her. Its products were incredible, and they could seriously boost the whole business. She smiled sweetly, bowed low, and urged Sherwood to open a branch of the store through the guild. Then her fearless stare hit St. Cara so hard he swallowed his nerves. The mayor lined in and demanded to know what they wanted in exchange for opening a guild branch in this city. Her voice snapped sharp and sudden, made the girl flinch, then she confessed, cheeks burning, exactly how Gabai's mess had left her in trouble. Nez's eyes sparked with fury at those demands, and Shira realized it. These weren't just excuses. Even after he got the green light for the branch, that inspector still found a way to humiliate him. Sanch snapped that she also had to swallow Jebus's abuse, and yeah, he was pure evil. He was left in total shock, and even snapped that it was unacceptable, despite the fact he'd done it himself before. Saying Amel's consent would be all they needed, and they wouldn't have to build a brand new base. She still admitted they'd need a safe place for travelers to sleep, promised fair pay, and city rules set the taxes, and Sanker dove into the fine print like it was a secret code he had to crack. I asked her name just to be sure, then flashed a small smile, held out my hand, and promised it would be amazing to work together. She met my grip warmly, her eyes sparkling as she thanked me for the trust and the support. So the Silver Moon Guild, teetering on the edge of bankruptcy, threw its fate in with the country's biggest guild. In just a few days, the Sure store was running like nothing happened. Crowds poured in from morning to night, non-stop customers everywhere. One day, while Anna was helping a customer, a guy demanded she bring him big matches. She didn't say a word, just froze on the spot, eyes wide with pure panic. Shira called out again, but there was still zero reply, so he crept closer and whispered right by her ear. The girl jolted, spun around, blurted out an apology, and asked what he needed. Shura let out a quiet sigh, told her again he needed big matches, and then bolted off to grab them fast. But then, just as fast, it all slipped out of focus again. The young man started counting his coins, but he couldn't miss the way her mind drifted off, so he called her name again. When she still didn't snap back, he blurted, "Are you okay?" She twists her head in panic, her little hands shaking. She has no clue whether to speak up. Suddenly, she dropped to her knees, tears spilling down her cheeks, and in a shaky voice, she blurted out that she needed money. Right then, the coins clattered onto the floor, and she dropped into a crouch again, grabbing his hands. He held on gently, breathed out in relief, and asked how much money she needed. Anna gulped, started an apology with shaking words, and insisted she didn't want to bother anyone. Shira gazed at her with warmth, gently stroked her head, and soothed her worries. Then he smiled and swore everything was perfectly fine. She told me not to beat myself up. Asking for help is real courage, and she takes that lesson to heart. Then he leaned in and asked if her mom was okay. Anna froze, and you could see the panic hit her. Just as she opened her mouth, Liara flew into the room and blared, "Shira, come eat." The liar skidded to a stop the moment he saw the girl's face, then blurted out an apology for barging in. Soon Sankara pushed inside, locked eyes with the young man, and demanded he spill everything he knew about how the city had been built and grown. But the moment she clocked what was going on, she snapped to a stop, blurted out an apology on the spot. Then Liar asked if they should circle back later. She spun toward Anna and fired off. "So, what do you think?" The little girl wiped her tears, flashed a brave smile, and told them, "It's all good, stay, everyone." The young man stared at the group, then made the call sit close together, listen to her, and jump in to help. The liar thumped his chest and bragged they'd handle it, because Ralph knew these ropes inside and out. Sankar even stepped in as mayor, promising Anna, "If anything goes wrong, you've got me. I'll handle it." Tears welled up in the girl's eyes, and the sly one finally broke his silence. he said he wanted to help. With tears streaming down her face, Anna finally choked out the truth. Her mother had fallen ill. Right then, her mother back at home erupted into violent coughing, and the flowers Ona had picked started to wilt on the spot. Anna still remembers being 4 years old, living the good life in a tiny little house, sitting at the table with her mom and dad, while her favorite teddy bear always sat close by, waiting for her. Then one day, everything snapped. War surged into the city overnight, and life got flipped upside down. Their cozy home went up in flames, and even her beloved toy crumbled into ash, while Mom clamped her daughter tight against her chest, blocking the chaos as they stood amid the ruins. Then her father stepped in, clutching a tiny, beat-up plush teddy bear, worn and grimy in his hands, while the pain in his face screamed that losing everything had crushed them both. But for Anna, the worst pain was seeing her father get yanked away by the soldiers. He squeezed her and her mother in a fierce hug, swore he'd be back soon, then marched out, leaving them alone in the silence. The war burned out after just 6 months, but years kept rolling, and Anna's father still never came home. When she was just 6, her mother sat her down and told her they were packing up to move to a whole new city. But that stubborn girl dug in her heels. She was terrified that once they walked out the door, Dad would come back to a house with no trail to follow. Seeing her daughter terrified, the mother's voice vanished as she yanked her into a tight hug, sobbing hard, while Anna froze, clueless about what to say or how to act. Soon they tore out of the city, crossed the borders, and pushed through day and night until they finally reached Nika. The curious girl tugged at her mother's sleeve and demanded to know why they'd come to this place, and her mother soothed her by saying, "Here, the fighting is over, no more war, just safety." Living in a border town was brutal, and Anna refused to lose anyone else. She watched her mother slave away in the fields, starving herself so Anna could eat and stay alive. Over time, her mom's health crumbled, one bad day after another, until she got weaker, sicker, and barely holding on. She kept rushing to apologize to Anna, and every time she did, guilt crawled into Anna's chest for how badly she'd hurt her mom. In the dead of night, Anna clutched her teddy bear to her chest and sobbed her heart out on the floor of that tiny room, until her tears finally ran dry. She snapped and decided everything had to change, so she pushed herself to grow fast. She tossed the toy aside, stared herself down in the mirror, and geared up to hit the street and sell flowers with everything she'd managed to scrounge up. Her relentless push paid off. She finally got the city's approval to sell her goods. Every morning, Anna marched out with a basket for flowers, and she wouldn't come home until the sky was dark and the evening had fully arrived. She kept rushing to the market day after day, until one day she finally met Shura, and the second his hand reached for those flowers, his presence grabbed her full attention. Shura not only swept in with a bouquet, she also tracked down her a job. Because of all that, Anna finally lifted some of her mom's burdens, and pure joy lit up her face. She bowed her head, thanked the gods she truly believed in, and prayed from the heart, overflowing with gratitude. The moment Anna got her first paycheck, 10 silver coins, she didn't even hesitate. She already knew exactly what she was spending it on. She rushed to the market and spotted a traveler who swore, back in the day, that he carried a potion that could cure any illness. No second thoughts, Anna emptied her pockets to buy it. Then she shoved the potion into her mother's hands and swore Shura himself had given it. The one who drank would be filled with nothing but hope. But that spark of hope died fast. Turns out the potion did absolutely nothing for her mother. Even after she finished it, Anna couldn't shake the despair that swallowed her whole. All she could think about was saving her mom from that illness. Then it hit her like a punch. Right now, the real lifeline is money. If this works, her mom will finally reach the spot where she can get the real help she needs. With that thought burning in her chest, Anna spun toward Shura, praying he'd step in to save her mother, love or no love. With every ounce of courage, she blurted out her request for a loan, bracing herself for his judgment. To Anna's shock, Cher didn't tease her at all. He just gently stroked her head, and in that exact moment, warmth spread through her. She hadn't felt this spark in forever, and when he leaned in and listened hard to her story, it somehow made everything feel brand new. Shuru drew in a slow breath, his warm gaze saying he fully understood her pain, while Anna bowed her head, her small frame shaking, and her sad face spilling just how brutal this was for her. For a split second, the room froze in silence. Then Lair slammed a punch into the wall beside him, cracking a few bricks, too. His eyes flared with fury and he roared, demanding to know who sold him that brutal potion. Lair clenched his fists, whipped his arms through the air, and swore to himself that once he found the one who tricked him, they'd regret it, especially for dragging a child into it. Then he declared, cold and certain, that he'd beat the culprit with a brutal 100-hit streak. Right before he could even speak, an ESKS swooped in and cracked him on the head with a stick, then barked at him to stop breaking other people's stuff. Meanwhile, Ralph slid down beside Anna and spoke up calmly, but with real confidence. Ralph told Anna, no matter how painful it was to swallow, that the potion she handed her mother couldn't cure a single disease, and when she blinked in shock, Anna lifted her gaze and demanded, "What do you mean?" Then the cleric spoke in a steady voice and told him the potion would only mend what's on the outside, while special antidote brews were the only thing that could fight the poison. But no potion on Earth could ever cure those diseases. Anna blinked again and again, trying to process it all. Then she played innocent and flat-out denied it, while the traveler who sold her the potion swore that her mother would recover. Ralph's crew dropped their heads, threw out an apology, and admitted the adventure had duped them, sending them home with something useless. Anna murmured the priest's words again and again, like she was locking onto the exact meaning. Then her eyes burned with tears, spilling down her cheeks as the brutal truth finally hit, and Ralph's chest ached watching her fall apart. Meanwhile, the liar's rage surged so hard he snapped, couldn't hold it in anymore, so he smashed straight through the window. He blared that he'd spotted a fraudster and was going to make him pay, told Ralph to handle it, and then Neska and Keela rushed in with him to catch the criminal. Anna's friends tailed her to visit her mother, while Shira, wearing a grave face, trailed behind them at a slow, deliberate pace. As they walked, Shira replayed Anna's warnings about the illness, while Sankara mulled over the pharmacist's words, how this sickness doesn't just spread, it shatters lives, and that hit her like a punch, making the danger feel real. Shura quietly pulled Rout aside and leaned in, demanding to know what on earth happened to him. Ralph tells him the truth, bit by bit. It crushes the body, like his limbs are shutting down and every ounce of strength is draining away. Even after all that studying, those scientists still couldn't crack how the thing spreads. Shira's hands shook when the news hit her, and she finally realized the danger was way bigger than she'd ever imagined. After walking a little farther, Anna whipped her hand out and pointed at a tiny house. It leaves Shiru staring in disbelief. How on earth does Anna make it to the outskirts every single day to water those lonely flowers for her mom? Anna drew in a deep breath to steady her nerves, then burst through the door with a radiant smile. "I'm home," and her voice came out warm and full of love as she welcomed Shura inside and proudly introduced him to her mother. Even with her strength fading, Stella pushed herself up, smiled at him with gentleness, and quietly thanked Shira for looking after Anna. But he wouldn't take no for an answer. He insisted he had to repay her with a proper thank you. Right when Stella tried to push herself up, even though her body was fighting her, Stella threw her hands up and apologized for how messy she looked. Anna and Shiro shot her a quick warning, "Don't burn yourself out. Her health matters more than anything else." She kept insisting it was rude to stay in bed when guests arrived, but Anna's stern look snapped her into silence and forced her to rest. Then Stella spotted Sankara, and he told her straight up that he was the mayor of this city. Stella's face tightens with worry, and she blurts out, "Why did you drag me here?" Ralph said they had to see Anna's situation for themselves, because they genuinely cared. Stella swallowed her pride and apologized for the mess she'd caused. But Sankar finally understood the gut-punch truth. She was the one she regretted. The mayor's frustration crackles on her face. She can't feed every single needy person, and it's eating her up inside, which leaves Stella wide-eyed, even though Stella's only been here a short time. Then Stella leaned in and grilled Anna about when she'd teamed up with the mayor, and why she'd hidden it like a secret treasure. Anna grinned and told him she'd crossed paths with more than just Sankara. She'd met Shura, Ralph, Lur, Keela, and Nesk too. Unbelievable adventurers, she beamed, thrilled to have so many friends, and when she saw her daughter laughing, Stella's heart filled with pure, warm joy. Aa's chest burst with warmth when she saw her daughter laughing and at peace. She rushed to ask her mom if she'd eaten, then volunteered to whip up soup for the guests. Stella shot back that if anything needed prepping, she'd handle it herself. Then a man cut in, insisting she didn't have any meat, because she genuinely loves cooking and wants to take over the job herself. The girl said she'd head to the river for water, and Ralph immediately jumped in, ready to go with her. Stella watched them for a moment, then snapped, "Sankara, step outside with me," and demanded a private talk. One time while Shura was nearby, he stared right at her and held back until she spoke first, yet Stella hesitated just a beat. With a serious, confident look on her face, she leaned in and admitted she wanted to ask him for a favor. She locked eyes with him and demanded to know, if anything ever happened to her, would he step up and take care of her daughter? Shira froze at the sudden request, her mouth going blank because she couldn't think of a thing to say. Stella clocked the shock on his face, then blurted out an apology for hitting him with all that out of the blue, maybe even sounding selfish, because she could feel her time running out fast. She couldn't stop worrying about Anna's future, and when she spoke, her eyes clouded with sadness. She demanded to know if the girl had already told him about the illness. And yeah, she nodded, Then Mom leaned in and whispered, "So, did Anna cry when you brought it up?" And he nodded along, even though Anna had been sobbing since before any of it began. And when Stella shut her eyes and sucked in a shaky breath, you could tell she was terrified, because this moment had haunted her for years. She saw the crushing effort Anna was throwing at everything, right up until she ran out of strength and had to cling to that girl just to keep living. Heartbreak hit her hard. She was a mother, and she couldn't reach her child when it mattered most. But the worst part was seeing Anna force a smile through the pain, just to keep everyone from worrying. But lately, Stella caught something she'd never seen before. As they talked, Anna lit up with real joy, and that smile instantly yanked her attention. She couldn't hold back her curiosity, so she demanded to know why her daughter was glowing with happiness. She beamed and said she's so happy now, because she finally has a really kind older brother, and that just fills her with joy. Right then, staring at Shura, Stella finally got it asterisk, and it hit her hard. He looked just like Anna's father. The moment she saw him walk in, a weird dread hit her, like the same man who'd vanished before had somehow come back. Shura felt his chest clamp down and blurts out an apology, because he realized he was standing in for Anna's real father, and the whole thing felt painfully awkward. Then Stella flashes a shaky smile and waves it off, like she meant something completely different. She tells him that just his presence drags the man she was starting to forget back into her mind, and once she sees his face again, the panic finally slips away. Tears swelled in her eyes, her voice shook as she declared, "I'm sure of it. When my time comes, I'll finally meet my husband." He shot her a wide-eyed stare and demanded to know what she meant. Stella let out a quiet sigh, her calm face hiding the storm, and told him the truth. Her illness was burning through her time, and her body couldn't last much longer. She fought her way to her feet, stubborn fire blazing in her eyes, and once again begged Shura to look after Anna while she was gone. Even though Anna stood tall and fought like a warrior, deep down she was still a little girl, one tear away from breaking. Before Stella even finished her sentence, her legs wobbled, she looked wiped out, one slip away from crashing, and she snapped backward to save herself. He lunged forward to catch her just before she went down, and for a heartbeat, they stared into each other's eyes. Stunned by how close she'd come, he blurted, worried, asking if she was okay, and Stella, still dazed, gave the smallest nod before he carefully guided her back onto the bed. Something snagged his attention, and he immediately asked if he could briefly touch her foot, just for a second, and the moment the request left his mouth, her cheeks lit up with a full-blown blush. Heat crawled up her cheeks and her heart hammered like crazy, but even with embarrassment burning her, she nodded anyway, eyes squeezed shut, because she couldn't even figure out why he was asking. Shira kept a sharp watch on every single move, and before long he knew, deep down, that his suspicions had teeth. Stella snapped her eyes open, startled, and demanded what he meant. Then she blurted, shaky and awkward, whether he liked her legs. She stumbled over every word, and when he blushed too, he panicked, shot back a quick denial, and insisted it had nothing to do with that at all. No kidding, he was starting to figure out what had twisted his fate into this mess, and he even had a hunch about how to set it right. Stella's eyes shot wide with shock, because she'd never once pictured something like that could actually be possible. Tears streamed down her cheeks as a quiet sob tore out of her, because deep in her heart she still couldn't bear to die, or leave her helpless little daughter alone in this world. Shura gripped her hands tight and reassured her, swearing she wouldn't die, and that once this was all settled, she'd get to live with Anna. Right then the bedroom door swung open, and Sankara strode in, asking if their talk was finally done. Anna and Ralph followed right behind her. But the second they saw what was going down, they went wide-eyed, stunned to the bone, as Shura tightly clenched his hands like he already knew he'd win. Sankar and Ralph just froze, utterly speechless, staring at the kid without a clue what they were even looking at. Meanwhile, Shura looks completely stuck. Panic crashes inside his skull, and he scrambles to figure out how he's going to explain everything now. Sankara's presence was so intimidating it made everything hard to untangle, and Ralph already had his weapon up and ready, bracing for trouble the moment it showed up. Stunned and completely lost, the men fell silent as Stella kept wiping her tears, and Shira let out a real wave of relief once she saw that Stella had finally broken the deadlock. He stared at her silence and pictured how ugly this could have gotten, then cleared his throat, pulled himself together, and told her, back in his country, the disease that wrecks a spoiled life is called barbarity. Everyone recoiled at this name, yet he didn't slow down, he kept going. They break it down, the body's running short on key vitamins, and that's exactly why it happens. In the worst cases, vitamin-starved bodies went numb, hands and feet lost feeling, movement vanished, but it was fixed fast. Just put those missing vitamins back in. Anna practically lit up at the news, then blurted out if there was any medicine that could help her mom. Shura just grinned and told her, Yeah, those medicines do exist. I still hear my grandmother's voice in my head. Help anyone who needs it. With no time to waste, he fired up his alchemy skills, trading money for yen, and rushed off to snag the medicine he needed. Moments later, he came back with a bottle of pills and leaned in to tell Stella, "You may look simple, but these medicines can change everything for you." The mayor and the priest lined in, staring at the bottle in pure curiosity, because they'd never laid eyes on anything like it before. Stella screeched to a stop and asked, "So, is that medicine gonna cost a fortune?" But she just grinned and told him not to fret. Her happiness was the best prize of all, and even when she tried to push back, he wouldn't budge. He told her that Anna saved him big time the moment he first landed in this city, and now it was finally his turn to pay her back. He pressed a pill into her hand and handed over a glass of water, and Stella snatched them both. Then tears spilled as she swallowed the medicine, hope blazing in her eyes. A month slid by and that bell rang again, like a countdown to trouble. Then Anna dragged Shura back home. The second she cracked open the door, her mother lit up the moment with a warm, welcoming smile. Seeing Stella on her feet, her eyes flew wide open, and she burst into joy, asking if Mom was feeling better now. Stella beamed with a warm smile and admitted she was honestly shocked too, because she was feeling so great. He bolted straight up to Stella and demanded, "Can we team up for a joint bet again, just like last time?" And just like that, Stella agreed on the spot. So ever since, mother and daughter curled up together and fell asleep side by side every single night. They pulled each other in for a hug, and happy tears streamed down their faces like they couldn't hold it in. Meanwhile, Anisod is still slowly and carefully brushing her hair, like she's got no idea what's about to hit. It rushes to her, apologizing for how hard it scared her, then swears, right there, that they'll never be apart again. Shira stood right there, grinning like crazy, watching as the two finally came face to face. In that split second, Shura's grandmother flooded his mind, and he pictured her face lighting up with pride, like she'd celebrate him for saving someone. That night, the boy leaned on his balcony, clutching a drink, replaying the wild, mind-blowing events of the day like they were still happening. Stella bounced back in full, thanks to those vitamins. And now Anna finally broke through. She could talk to her mother at last. Cook up mouth-watering feasts, pick fresh flowers, and play however you want. Shurin realized the girl had powered up even more, and her happiness lit up the whole crowd like wildfire. The Silver Moon Guild shot straight into official status after the fairies handed them their blessing. So the Azure Flash crew jumped in and started helping the main guild finish their forest missions. Shura caught himself thinking about his pay. Over the last 2 months, he'd raked in around 50 million yen, and if he kept this pace for a full year, he'd finally save up enough to quit working for good. He was dead set on living quietly at home with zero work, and then boom, Shankar appeared right behind him. She slipped up on him out of nowhere, and his drink almost went flying from pure shock. Then she grinned and whispered, "Good night." He was still rattled, mumbling that she'd scared him so badly his heart felt like it stopped. And then the mayor cracked up, apologized, and asked what he was drinking. Shira leaned in and told her this drink came straight from his homeland, then dared her to take a sip, so she lit up and agreed on the spot, and the two of them laughed and chatted as they drank together. During the talk, the mayor caught herself wondering whether she should reach over and give him a little head pat. Before he could even get a word out, she clamped him in a tight hug, dropped his head onto her lap, and he sputtered to protest. Shankara straight up admitted he loves getting compliments, and when he said it, he even blushed like it hit him right in the face. She shushed him, slid her fingers through his hair, and he blurted out, "Did you drink too much?" Senkira beamed and told him how thrilled she was that he'd finally made it to the city. It had nothing to do with the prize at all. She even told him, if he ever needed anything, he just had to reach out. But Shira grabbed him and snapped, "Don't, this isn't worth it," because he'd already done everything he could. Sankar locked eyes with him and said she understood. Then she sang, pure and unselfish, with no greed in her heart. Cairo's cheeks burned with embarrassment, so she blurted out that nobody should see her as noble. She loves money too much, and she's painfully selfish. And then she remembered exactly what her grandmother drilled into her. St. Carr flashed a grin, said his grandmother must have been something special, then leaned in and asked, "So what's her name?" First came Erizo Hamo, and then Shiro Paz blew the whole situation wide open. Sankara kept repeating the name, and then it hit her, her eyes snapping wide with sudden realization. She clamped her hands on Shiri's shoulders and yanked him into place, shaking him so hard she demanded to know, was he the grandson of Ares, the immortal witch? Shura couldn't believe her reaction and blurted, "Wait, do you know my grandmother?" Sankar told them how the whole continent had heard tales of that legendary immortal witch, but only a handful had ever stood face to face with her, and Sankar was one of them. Shura stood there baffled until Shankara told her the truth. Last harvest festival, a witch popped up in the middle of the city, and there was Arisa, laughing, happily drinking, and dancing with everyone like she belonged. I couldn't believe it. 7 whole years had crawled by since Grandma Shura vanished. Right as he opened his mouth to object, Holy Kara cut in, firing off memories of that witch, who collected shards of stars to forge the magical sword called Mel Gibson. Shura stopped dead for a second. Too many details hit him at once, and the sword's name instantly yanked him back to his childhood. That famous actor once spotted his giant poster hanging at his grandmother's house. When he asked about it, she just beamed and told him it was her favorite, then leaned in and kissed the photo. Sanka was still reeling, practically frozen, because she couldn't wrap her head around the fact that her own grandmother really was that witch. And honestly, it fit, because he always showed up with mysterious medicines and weird little surprises in tow. Curiosity sparked in her voice as she asked, "Have you seen your grandmother yet?" And Shuru shook his head hard, admitting he hadn't laid eyes on her in years. She swung out onto the balcony, sucked in a deep breath, and declared, loud and fearless, that she was still alive. Before she went back to her own world, she slipped into her grandmother's place. Now he's right there, parked on the floor at Grandma's house. He stared at the altar, her photo in front of him, stunned to the bone that she might still be alive, while his thoughts spun out of control as he traced the picture of the old woman who always snapped photos and flashed that calm peace sign. At last, his mind was his own, no one else's thoughts crowding in. He took a deep breath, wrestled his feelings into order, then stared at the photo again, and he was sure of one thing: he'd find her at the Harvest Festival. Determination ignited in him as he sprang to his feet and strode straight through the portal, back to a brand new world, remembering how, just yesterday, he was talking with Sankara when he uncovered something mind-blowing. She leaned in and swore his grandma wasn't just odd, she was a legendary witch everyone talked about. Then the mayor himself brought up the fact that she's gone missing. She told Chiru she gets why he's rushing to find her, but she urged him to hang back in Nina a bit longer, because his grandmother showed up at the Harvest Festival last year. Shiro realized that if it happened once, it could strike again. Especially because his grandmother lives for holidays, she's definitely coming this year. Sankara couldn't shake the feeling this celebration would be unforgettable. After all, the city was roaring its 120th anniversary, and the mayor was throwing together a massive event, even calling on him for help. A few weeks later, when the holiday was just 2 months away, Shuru, the biggest festival fanatic around, was already buzzing with anticipation. He snapped up St. Carr's invitation with a grin, but the excitement vanished fast, because he had no clue how he was supposed to surprise everyone, and he refused to show up with food since the stalls and competitions were already stacked there. And those same old games were useless since they were everywhere, so he wrestled with the problem for a long time, trying to figure out his next move. Irritation flared in his eyes as he scratched his head, desperately digging through old memories for any fresh idea he could salvage. Then boom, an idea hit him, and he snatched a few cameras and tore off to start filming. Garignat came back from the store. Shira dropped the gear in place, and Anna's brows snapped together as she stared. "Wait, what's going on?" Grinning, Shira said that was a fair question, then practically bounced with excitement, explaining the cameras were for a brand new product, a thermal collar. Still, the girl looked totally lost, like she couldn't figure out what was happening. Noticing Anna's confusion, he didn't waste time. He went hands-on and asked her to see for herself. He aimed the camera at her, snapped a shot so fast it barely registered, and flashed the result. Then her eyes flew open in shock as she stared at the paper, trying to figure out how her face ended up there. When it finally faded out, Sherry spun around, and a surprised laugh burst from her. Later, they cleared things up. This gadget can snap people and moments into photos in an instant, so this is the perfect chance to see it do its thing. He leaned in and begged Anna to smile, then snapped off shot after shot while she stared at the photos, grinning like she'd hit the jackpot. Before long, she couldn't resist and pushed herself to learn how to use it. After some awkward fiddling, she finally snapped a pic of Shura and burst out, grinning, asking if it came out right. After he threw himself into it, he made sure that photo came out absolutely perfect. And Anna, buzzing with excitement, lined in even closer and snapped even more photos of him. The young man caught the vibe in seconds, flashed a few poses, then after just a handful of shots, he stopped playing along. Then Anna spotted another camera and blurted out, "What's that?" Sue smiled and said it was a Polaroid, leaving Anna's eyes wide as she couldn't believe how many different cameras were here. The young man lightly nudged her, like a secret spark, just to pull her attention back to him. The second she locked eyes with him, he snapped her photo right away and laughed like he'd just caught her totally off guard. The little girl stared at the photo and snapped that she looked ugly in it. Then it hit her like lightning, and she snapped out, shouting for Shura. The second he spun around, she snatched a Polaroid and beamed, grinning that this was her shot to catch him off guard. He shot her a raised eyebrow and demanded if this was really how she meant to thank him. But the second he spotted that photo, her flashing the peace sign, he froze because she looked just like his grandmother. Right then, Stella burst into the store and thanked Shura for watching her daughter all day. He flashed a grin, lined in, and asked how she was adjusting to the new place and whether the move still left her wiped out. Stella shot back that with his support behind her, it barely felt like work at all. Shiro set up a cozy service apartment for herself and her daughter right near the store. Anna snatched the perfect moment and cracked a joke that her mom absolutely can't keep anything in order. Stella flushed bright red and shushed her daughter, and the guy only grinned, then told them he'd be right there, ready to jump in if they needed backup. Anna's a bit shy, but she still beams and sincerely thanks Tim. Then she teased that he probably couldn't organize a thing either, and Shura's ears instantly warmed. He just scratched his head and started rambling, unsure of what to say. The girl broke into a huge grin, waved goodbye with pure cheer, and Shiri shot back a wave to match her, watching them stroll ahead with that calm, satisfied smile. The Silver Moon Guild just teamed up with that powerhouse Fairy Guild. Now they're riding on the blessing. And Shira couldn't forget her first visit, because all she could hear was Emil sobbing at her table. The moment he stepped inside, everything hit him. This place looked nothing like what it used to be. A handful of lively adventurers huddled together in the forest, buzzing with excitement as they traded battle-tested tips. He could barely process it. Just 2 months after the guild was almost shut down, it was now roaring as one of the busiest in the whole kingdom. When he saw him, he shot over and blurted out, "Did you come here just to see her?" That rabbit girl leaned in, petting Shura like he was hers already, and flashed a sly grin as she demanded, "Did he bring her an expensive, gorgeous gift?" Irritated, Shiro snapped at her to stop, but she just kept mugging for laughs, teasing him. And then she boldly said that if he truly wanted her, she'd marry him and live the high life with him. She was already daydreaming about her wedding, married, living in a giant castle, and riding through the streets in fancy carriages. Or better yet, soar on a dragon and rain golden coins on the people below. Shira refused her flat out, but Ima wouldn't back down. She promised she'd let him do anything he wanted with her, winked that she looked different only on the surface, and then tugged her collar with a teasing smile. Shuruf's panic exploded the moment she acted like that, and he begged her to stop right away. Then, desperate to escape it, he blurted out whether she had somewhere else she needed to be. Imal flashed a sly grin and announced she was taking a break before Shira even had the chance to answer. The rabbit girl pinned him to the wall and whispered in the dark, asking if he wanted to drink with her. They tried to break free, and even when he dropped the anchor, they still wouldn't back down. He slowly pried her hand away, and his grandmother's words hit him like a warning bell. Never let yourself get stuck alone in a dark room with a woman who's had a drink and can't keep her impulses in check. It was her final wish, until he just found out his grandmother was still alive. Right then, the nearby companions cracked up laughing, because Ino had pulled yet another ridiculous stunt. The innocent little rabbit grinned, even as Shura clung to her hand like she'd never let go. Imagine if she hadn't shoved him. He would have grabbed her and dragged her into that dark room himself. She leaned in with a playful grin and joked that she could tell he cared about her deep down. Right then, the guy's nerves snapped. Sweat broke out on his forehead from how close she was, and Shura's panic detonated as he jerked back. Shura screamed that he needed help right now. An octopus had just attacked him. Out of nowhere, a figure burst from behind the mill, Keela the scout. She snapped her foot out and knocked the girl rabbit flat in an instant. She shot through the air and plopped straight into a wooden barrel, then squealed in pure victory that the awful octopus trap was finally taken care of. Keela immediately asked if he was okay. The young man blinked through tears of joy and said, "I'm fine." At the same time, inside the guild tavern, adventurers were clinking beers together, grinning wide, and shouting toast after toast like the night's theirs. Shur grabbed Killy's shoulders and thanked her for yanking him out of Aile's grasp, and the cat girl leaned in to explain why rabbits go absolutely feral under a full moon. Nesk snapped the denial, but the moment he thought of Shira, regret hit him hard, because deep down, he knew their bond wasn't exactly strong. Ralph cracked a joke that Miss Isle nearly chomped the garden shears like they were forbidden fruit. And the rabbit girl happily chowed down on that chicken leg, right there, proving it for real. They blinked in shock and demanded how she even wound up there, and Hale just smiled, calm as ever, and told them she hates being stuck on the sidelines. Suddenly, chaos erupted in Laegiel. Two adventurers threw hands, and before anyone blinked, the crowd was already betting on who'd come out on top. The stock prices stayed locked in place. So yeah, the whole struggle just flat out stopped. Lear just barked a laugh and shrugged it off, saying these adventure brawls happen all the time, like a high you throw when you see someone. He added that the city's tension had been swelling day by day. Shur demanded to know why, and Lair snapped back that the forest expedition had pulled in adventurers from every corner of the kingdom. The absolute best, no exceptions. 2 months roll by, yet there's still not a single ruin in sight. And meanwhile, brutal fights keep raging everywhere. A lone traveler shot forward in the water like a missile, but the last-second dodge barely saved him. Then he snapped back with a razor-sharp kick. Everyone looked utterly drained, and Lair nodded. Yep, he felt it too. In that tiny town, there was basically nothing to do, and day by day, everyone's patience snapped tighter and tighter. The girl tucked under that table shoved Shura, and Shura snapped, begging her to stop lifting her shirt. Grimacing through it, she swore she'd never act like that again, and promised him she'd never pull a stunt like that in front of a crowd. Then Green gave a sly half-smile and said, "When I talked about distraction, that's exactly what Lair meant. Shur just didn't get it." A girl let out a sharp laugh and basically said he's got zero clue about anything. Yeah, she was totally hinting at BRS. Then Lair's cheeks flared red as she started to refuse. He swore it wasn't true, but the other guy wouldn't let it go. He kept pushing and demanded to know why he was falling apart. Then Nesca slammed her heel onto Liara's foot and snapped at him for spouting pure nonsense. He tried to talk it out, but the sorcerers slammed in even harder, and the warriors' scream tore through the air. That wild adventure battle is finally over, and the dust has settled for good. The moment she walked in, her confidence hit the room like a wave. She shot a sharp, stern look and demanded to know what the hell was going on. The fighters went dead still, insisting they didn't throw a single punch. When he spotted Shura, he shot an apology for barging in out of nowhere, then just couldn't stop staring, because she was downright incredible. Then En spotted Ale hiding under the table and yanked her name into the air, and when the confused girl trembled and looked to En, it was like the room held its breath. With a chilling grin, he demanded to know if she'd been there the whole time, and why she didn't end the fight before it even got started. Isle's tamer said nothing at all, and somehow the truth still didn't land on anyone. Without a single second to spare, she yanked Ali outside as the defeated girl wailed, shouting for Shura to save her future wife, then begging for any punishment at all, just not a salary cut. Once the chaos finally died down, Lara marched up to Cher and demanded her attention. While hunting for ruins deep in the forest, he blundered into rare flowers by pure accident. The group explained the task to Shirwin, and he lit up and said he wanted in. Then Lair pressed him again, asking if he was truly completely sure. And Shiro backed it up. Problem is, he's going to need protection fast. The warrior grinned and swore that this time, they'd become stronger than ever before. And with that, they all lifted their mugs again and clinked them together with big, happy cheers, like they were toasting the moment. A soft breeze rolled through the blooming field, and Shur just stopped dead, staring like he couldn't believe what he was seeing, because the endless sea of flowers felt unreal, like something truly special meant just for him. Nesca, the sorceress of their crew, kneels and studies the flowers so closely it's like she's reading them. Then she declares with steady, wise confidence, "These are Apsara, an ultra-rare kind that only grows where the water shines crystal clear." She points out that these flowers are delicate and easily crushed, but their value is massive because they're perfect for brewing powerful healing herbs. The moment she finishes, the whole company decides to rest and drops down right among the blossoms. Across the field, Lyra catches the trio's attention, arms crossed, face tight with disapproval, and the warrior jokes, "I knew the second we had our chance, Nesk and Killy would drop off and go straight to sleep." But she's thrown off because the guy she cares about is so calm she can almost see him drifting off. Then he apologizes and admits the truth. After that brutal journey, his body is wiped out, and he just needs a little rest right now. Lyre totally brushes off the chatter and snaps that they'll finish the job before sunset. Then, and only then, they can finally drop everything and rest as long as they want. A week back, the Azure Flash crew stumbled on those rare flowers during one of their adventures, and that's exactly when their group got handed this task. They found out Apsara is the secret ingredient for the kingdom's best healing elixirs, so valuable that doctors and healers swear by it. But here's the catch: those flowers started wilting the second they hit the journey back. Their power was draining even before the delivery ever started. Nesca tried pouring water on them and casting magic to keep them fresh, but it was already slipping away. Everything felt doomed, and the whole crew was one breath away from throwing in the towel on the mission. And then Lyra cooked up a wild idea and spun toward Shurub for help. Because this kid has a crazy spatial power, that lets him stash things away like magic. It can swallow an insane amount of stuff, and you'd swear it weighs nothing, because everything you stash in there stays flawlessly preserved. Locked in time, it stays fresh forever. No spoilage, no drop in power. Liar says there are already enough flowers for now, then suddenly spots something that makes her pause. Right then she realizes Keela's been passed out asleep the whole time. She didn't catch a word of their conversation at all. Before Lair can shake her awake, the cat perks up at a weird sound, her smile vanishes, and she goes dead serious. Somebody's coming. Everyone snaps into action, shoulders tight, hands flying to their weapons. Right away, a swarm of gigantic insect giants, Roberts, descends above them, towering and terrifying, and Shire's jaw drops as her eyes go wide with pure awe. When the huge insects show up, the jumpers go still with pure shock, and the liar frantically tries to tally them in his head, guessing there are at least 17, numbers that oddly give him a little hope. The liar calls out a promise, then snaps his fingers, freeze, and demands total silence from everyone. Sir leans in close, studying the bison in spots where the most brutal wounds show, deep cuts crawling across their bodies. Nesca surveys the crime scene and realizes those cuts were carved by a wind-powered spell, while the group's cleric spots fresh blood still dripping from the wounds, proving the injuries just happened. As they scramble to figure out who's been attacking the insects, Brekhuka snaps that the beetles have clocked them, so when there's no other escape, she orders Rolla to stand guard over Polivka, right now. As Nesca starts to cast spells, the sorceress smirks and snaps back that she's already doing exactly that. She whipped her hand through the air, and a blazing fire arrow ripped out of her staff like a strike of lightning. The blast smashes down a swarm of beetles, and they tumble straight into the roaring flames, while Roll barrels in, rushing to shield Shira. Shura gets told he's not in danger, but Keela snaps into action and hurls sharp knives at the beetles, only for the blades to ricochet and bounce harmlessly back as she freezes in shock, right before the beetles swarm in and close her in. Nesk's plea for help flashes on the screen. Calm as ever, the sorceress snaps a fresh spell and blasts a roaring burst of fire that incinerates more enemies into ash. He snaps to it, these insects are terrified of fire, and in the next breath he fires off a plan. Shira bolts to escape, and Ralph panics, yelling at her to slow down, because the insect spray they used earlier won't stand a chance against these creatures. But Shiro flashes a grin and promises he's got a brand new trump card tucked up his sleeve. A young man yanks a tiny lighter from his pocket and grabs a canister of gas, all in a flash. He snaps the sparks together, and boom, whips up a massive blaze that charges forward, slamming the monsters and wiping them out into dust like he built a homemade flamethrower on the spot. Shuru shoots a look at his friends and blurts, "That move I just pulled. It's seriously dangerous. Don't you dare try it at home." His buddies are still reeling, and the liar is already throwing out, "Was that magic?" But Shuru doesn't even slow down to answer. He nods to Ralph to swat that pesky insect away, and the cleric snaps into action. He brings the heavy mace down hard, crushing the creature and cracking its tough shell like it's nothing. With only 6 enemies left, Laird grins and declares victories right around the corner. Then the whites suddenly huddle up, ready to strike. They pivot the assault onto Nesku, and Shira Reddy's winds up another fireball, until he realizes the witch is standing right on top of the insects, and if he blasts the flame, it's going to burn her too. Neska's brain is already cooking up her next move when a beetle suddenly lunges at her. Then one of the Sherus rockets in and shoves her out of the way. But not this time. He throws himself in front of it, and the insect's claws dig straight into his body. Liar's panic bursts out as he screams at Shira to leap into the river, anything to tear himself free of this creature. No choice left, he plunges into the water, and it pays off. He rips himself free from the beetle's grip, but Shira gets snatched by a raging current. Neska snaps into a spell, summoning water spirits to shield the young man from harm. Lyra's stomach dropped when she saw Shira get yanked toward the riverbank. Azure Flash's leader leans forward, scanning for him, praying Shira can push through. Sherry snaps back to consciousness, heart pounding, and wonders if his friends will finally rush in to save him. Suddenly, a woman's voice blasts through his doubts, telling him, "Don't quit, hold on and stay strong." He chokes up the water he swallowed, then hears the girl break into excited cheers, like she's thanking the universe that he's alive. But he just stalls in shock when she cuts in and asks, wide-eyed, if he's never seen a fairy before. He blurts out, "Are you really a fairy?" because he's never seen one in his life, and the way he stares at her like she's impossible makes it clear. He's stunned she's real. A tiny creature no bigger than a palm buzzes nearby, rocking grass-like hair and wings that sparkle like pure light. It flutters about so gently, then tugs on its shyness and whispers to Shiro not to stare so hard, and Shiro instantly gets it. blurts out an apology and backs off. She crosses her arms, stares him down, and waits like she's daring him to say what's next. Still lost in his head, he blurts that he's happy to meet her. Then the little fairy snaps, furious like, "That's not what I pictured at all." She snapped her head side to side and demanded, "What yanked you out of that waterfall?" He warned that jumping straight into scalding water could have gone terribly wrong, and without her help, this might have ended in disaster. Hearing that, Shura blurts out a polite thanks to his imbo right away, but the fairy plants her hands on her hips and demands why he was splashing in the river like it's some ridiculous hobby, so he snaps back fast, insisting it wasn't his idea, not at all, and that the real reason was the long tail that suddenly sprang out. After hearing him out, she just shakes her head and bluntly admits it. Those monsters really did attack him. And if you try to joke that he's weak, you're basically rolling the dice on disaster. She leans in and asks where he's from, and he tells her he's from a tiny town called Norwich, right out west of where they're standing right now. Her eyes went wide as she said the name again, like she couldn't believe it, because Norwich isn't just a place on a map, it's where real people live. She lines in and asks him straight up, "Can you take me there?" The young man stares at her in shock, completely baffled. Why is she obsessing over this so hard? Ask her straight up if she's ever been in this city before. The fairy creases her brow like, "So, that's a no." Rob nods and agrees to take her, then presses the big question first. Does she have any friends in the city? The fairy nods and grins, telling him she knows a real human, someone who's the guy he needs. She lights up as she tells everyone that he's just a bit taller than Shura. His eyes were insanely beautiful, and his smile lit everything up, and the shade of his hair and eyes matched the sky perfectly. She shoots Shura a curious look and asks, "Do you know this guy?" But the guy shoots back, saying being the same race doesn't mean they're all connected. Then he lines in and demands, "So what's your name?" The tiny fairy halts mid-sentence, stares off like she's searching for words, then finally blurts out that she has zero clue what she's supposed to say. She tells him that before she ever met Shura, this was the only person she'd known, so she just called her by a simple, easy name. She called him Cumin, and Shiri couldn't shake the question, who was he really? A hunter on the prowl, or some adventurer with a secret mission? The young man hears how she talks about him, and realizes it sounds almost romantic, so he blurts out, "Were we ever a couple?" A fairy flutters up and taps his forehead, grimacing like she can't believe it, then asks if he's possibly the most foolish fool alive. They say a fairy and a human can never truly belong together, but these two, they weren't bound by fate, they were just best friends. Shiro grins and says they're probably best friends, and the fairy immediately nods along. She shoots back an instant, rock-solid yes, no hesitation at all, and the boy can't help but wonder if she really knows this forest inside out. Seeing how at ease she feels, the fairy nods and tells her the truth. She was born and raised deep inside this massive forest. Shura spots the opening and strikes a deal. If she leads him through this stretch of forest, he'll bring her along to Norwich. And he leans in, asking her what she really thinks about it. Her eyes flare with pure joy as she checks if he's really serious, and if he'll take her to the city for real. Then she nods along to his plan without a single doubt. She swears she'll even guard Shryo on the trip, and dares him to watch what she can do. The girl shoots up her hand, and a brutal burst of wind rips through the air, sharp as a blade, toppling several trees nearby in an instant. Her attack lands with terrifying force, and he jerks his eyes wide, stunned, blurting out if it really had to be that intense. The fairy snaps into a pose, hands on her hips, and admits she hasn't mastered her magic yet, but who cares because strength is what counts. Then she shows off, flexes those arm muscles, and makes it impossible to look away. Like she was begging him to notice, she proudly tells him they'd just been ambushed by a swarm of rhinoceros beetles, and she chased the whole mess off by herself. As Shira looks back, it hits her hard. She was the one who hurt the insects, and she finally declares that the mystery is over, fully solved. Shira reaches out, tells her they've finally sealed an agreement, and right there, introduces herself, and the moment the girl touches her chin, she bursts into laughter, says his name sounds weird, then nods and agrees to go along with it. She flashes a grin and tells him her full name, like it's a secret she's finally ready to reveal. He says that from now on he'll be her commander, but Petty snaps her arms across her chest and pouts that she hates the idea, then tells Shura to call her Cheek instead. The young man lets out a bright laugh, nods along and blurts, "Yes, boss," just to lift her spirits. Petty smirks and begs her to say it one more time, then Shira blasts, shouting for her chief, and the fairy spins through the air, squealing with pure delight. Shuryu stared at her, asked if she really liked it, and then, right on cue, he called her boss again. But Petty scowls and demands, "Why would you say that?" And the young man just shrugs it off with a joke, like that's how subordinates always talk. But this one stubborn girl won't let it slide, She claims she hates it and demands he stops. He suggests calling her captain, and she snaps back immediately, no way. Shiro is still wheezing, telling her she's strong and swearing he'll obey every single order like a thankful servant, because she saved his life. But she snaps back that she's not exactly thrilled about it either. Night drops and they huddle beside the campfire. Petty stares into the flames, wondering if Shira's heart aches for her friends. The young man tilts his head to the starry sky and tells you he does this almost every night, because the stars feel like close friends to him. As he gazes up, he worries that his real friends might be out there, searching for him this very second. Hooked by the promise, Petty Declare already swore she'd help him track them down. She fires off questions like she already knows the answers, but the fairy shuts that down and says, as the leader, it's her job to step up and accept the duty. And he's forced to trust her, hand everything over to her judgment. And when she checks in, she asks if he's hungry and realizes he hasn't eaten a single thing all day. Patty plants his hands on his hips and snaps that now he's under her guidance. She's going to feed him. Then a blazing flash detonates in his eyes. He blinks hard, and when the world finally sharpens, Shira's frozen in stunned silence. He asks if something's wrong, or if he's not feeding her right, then freezes, stunned that she can stash things too, and suddenly everything feels even more wild and unbelievable. Patty summons a massive glowing magic circle that blasts light and crackles with power. Then a portal rips open in the air, right as she reaches in with effortless grace and pulls a fruit straight out. Her eyes lit up with pure joy as she stared at Shura, who stood there frozen in awe and admiration. The fairy leaned in with a curious grin and asked if he'd ever seen someone pull off the inventory skill that way. His heart jolts at the sudden shock. Patty has the same rare, special gift too. He's about to blurt out his question, but she beats him to it and reads his mind. The fairy starts talking in a bright, a little too proud voice. Yeah, among fairies, special powers are everywhere, and plenty of them can magically pocket just about anything in their own storage, so she keeps rummaging through her stash, hunting for something. As she studies what she can't even see yet and digs through her finds with deep focus, she spots a tiny, sparkling glass bottle, and inside, golden liquid that shines like magic. Then she grins and slips it straight into Shirup's hands. So he lifts the bottle to his lips and takes a gulp, and instant warmth floods his whole body, blasting away any doubt with pure joy, while he blurts out that the meat tastes unbelievably delicious. Petty beams and brags that the dish is amazing because she whipped it up herself, then swears the meat is just as delicious since she handled every bit by hand. So she tells Shiro to dig in as much as he wants, because she's got more than enough supplies and has no reason to hold back. Someone's gotta keep watch at night, so nobody sneaks up and ruins their rest. Patty says it with swagger, but her eyes still worry, telling Shura to finish his drink and finally crash. Shura can already feel the drink easing his nerves, and the alcohol starts to tug at his eyelids, so he just flashes a grateful smile, follows along without a word, shuts his eyes, and lets himself sink into rest. Next morning, Petty calmly perches on the guy's head the second he wakes up, and then starts talking to him right away. This forest is packed with tons of different people. Some grin and welcome us, and others look like they'll need serious caution just to survive. Patty spots nasty orcs and colossal ogres lurking all around, mean, dumb, and unbelievably strong. Then she grabs his attention and points excitedly, saying that if he looks over there, he'll see the elves, mysterious singers who live in perfect harmony with nature. Driven by pure curiosity, she tried to sneak closer to the lands of El. Then bam, an enchanted shield shut the whole thing down, stopping anyone from entering or even peeking inside, and she finally threw in the towel. When Shira tries to cross the road, she freezes and strains her ears for the guy mumbling that everyone else feels far away and eerily quiet. Then he throws his head back and groans, dead tired. He begs for a quick break. He's wiped out from walking, and his legs are aching like crazy. So the fairy folds her arms and complains that he's stalling again, but she finally relents as long as it's not going to drag on. Right as they drop into their seats, Petty spots a weird flower, jabs a finger at it, and in true Petty fashion, tells everyone it's the rare bitbun species, then warns them the nectar tastes absolutely disgusting. Shira shot a startled look up, and the fairy kept gushing, telling how she once accidentally licked this nectar, only to regret it immediately as that nasty aftertaste stuck around for ages. Shira can't stop thinking about Petty's non-stop chatter, always tossing out these weird little topics and slamming everyone with fun facts that are interesting, but way too unnecessary. Long ago, back before Patty even showed up, this land belonged to an ancient kingdom called Ginny. Later, the country crumbled to dust, and where its cities once stood, a brutal jungle exploded into being, birthing the forest of the jinn. Frowning hard, the young man demands, so all of this really went down back when the ancient magical society ruled. Petty snaps back, irked out of her mind, and demands, how am I supposed to know, especially when it all went down way before I was even born? Sure just shrugs it off and shuts it down, but then Hade tenses hard, snapping into alert mode, because her instincts are screaming that something's off. Her instincts snap into gear, and Hyde blurts out for Shura to hide. No pause, no questions, just pure action. Suddenly, faint cries slice through the forest. Someone is calling out for Shira, and it's the AIA Flash adventurers, hunting for him and even the forest itself. Ralph's warm voice cuts through the air. Shiro, can you hear me? Lyra blurts out, bright-eyed and totally real, that if he ever vanished, it would tear her apart. Nesca swings her staff into Rolf and snaps at him for his gloomy words, and the warrior just keeps wiping his tears away. He boldly swears, right to your face, that Shiro is still alive. Nesca lets out a soft smile, brushes her hand through his hair, and tells him with calm confidence, I'm okay. She sprints through the trees, scanning every shadow for her friend. The moment Sherry hears those familiar voices, he springs to his feet without a second thought, steamrolling right past Patty's protests. She snaps at him, calling him a fool for exposing himself that fast. Shirukanya points them out like, these are my rock-solid friends, my closest crew, right here by my side. He shouts, I'm here, and they whip around to face him. But then it hit them, Keela was gone, and a bird had swooped in and snatched the scout away. Spying Shura, Keela blasts a bird out of the air, bolts, and then crashes to the ground. She accidentally crashes onto Shira, right with her chest, and the impact leaves everyone in the whole company totally clueless about what just happened. Killa, tears spilling from her eyes, clings to him like he might vanish, blurting that she thought he was gone for good, then squeezes him tight again, shaking with relief that he's alive, and swears she'll never lose him ever again. The crew bows to Shirey, but he waves it off, I'm good, and tells them to rise. Lara chokes on regret and rushes in with an apology. She swore she'd protect him, but she still couldn't stop it. Nesca teases that he's already saved her once before, promises it's only the second time, and swears she'll pay him back for his life-saving help. Shira blurted that he was safe and already back with his friends, and that was all that mattered. Then they immediately started arguing. But he barges in and blurts out, are you my friends? And Lyra, voice wobbling, stammers that yes, they are. Keela adds that their crew has a blast together. Even with their leader acting a little weird, they keep poking Lyra, and everyone cracks up in the same breath. Roland finally admits he feels like the Corn Guardian, only this time, he's come back completely alone. Shirer lines in and admits he wasn't completely alone, then he unveils Petty. They crouched behind that tree, and then boom, the life affirmers froze, utterly stunned. And Shiro blurts that she's a fairy, his guide, and that his life is hers to protect. Stunned, they beg him to go on because fairies are basically myth, so rare they might as well be legendary. Like ghosts, they barely ever talk to other races, and Shiro turns to Petty, demanding, is that really true? The fairy drags its feet and tells them they can't leave their territory because it breaks the rules. Shur said he always believed there were tons of fairies. After all, the guild itself is literally called Blessing of Fairies. Petty snarls in anger, demands to know why anyone should share their gifts with strangers, then hammers the point again. Maybe it's a fairy after all, and she can hand out the blessing herself. When Nesca has no clue, she fires off questions, and it throws the poor young man straight into a helpless bind. Seeing Strizhnik look totally lost, the wizard jumps in and steps in to set him straight, and tells you the fairy blessing isn't some magic charm at all. It's a wild, special booze brewed only by fairies, Akka the Fairy Girls. She whips around to Patty and demands, is that the drink I asked you to make for him? And the fairy beams, proudly declaring, yes, it is. Nesca blurts out, shaking, wait, did you really drink it? And Shira just freezes, torn between staring at Lur or locking eyes with Nesca. When everyone started peppering Pepper with non-stop questions about whether he really ate fairy servants. They're freaking out, asking if Shura really chugged the fairy drink, because one single glass could buy an entire castle. Ralph Chainson tells everyone that the guild's records show it hasn't changed hands in 200 years. Shur couldn't believe it when she learned just how rare this drink really was. Petty tells them she handed it to him because he's her subordinate. The warrior is completely thrown off by what's going on, but Stella brushes it off like it doesn't even matter. She shrugs off the question and says, it's a long story, and after Shira spills everything to her friends, a fairy swoops in and saves them all. The liar lunges forward and blurts out, thanks to Petty for saving their friend. Liar bows to Petty and promises he'll do anything, because he's going to make sure she's paid back for saving his friend. Then Shira blurts out, can I help you guys track someone down? Even though the Fair Eyes' hints were barely clear as day, they still nodded and decided to jump into the hunt with everyone. With every adventurer finally gathered in one place, they lock eyes, grin, and sprint back toward Norik. After pushing a little farther, they're almost at the city, and Patty's eyes suddenly blaze. She points straight at Shura and goes, "That's where people live." But nope, this is really the wizard's character, and the wizard makes it crystal clear. It's talking specifically about the city. Nesca blurts out that settlements get different names based on their size, and the fairy nods along, repeating it back, like she finally gets it. And Lyertal Shiru knows firsthand just how brutal it feels to be stuck as a subordinate. Howdy spots a familiar face in the distance, then leans in and asks who it is as he and Anna White stride up together, Shiro right there beside them near the entrance. The little girl's face crumples with sadness, and Shiro, already worried, demands what's going on and why she's here. Anna barrels up to him in tears, wraps her arms tight around his neck, and refuses to let go, while Stella steps forward grinning, finally thrilled that he's back. The crew of Blue Flash breaks apart with a goodbye, and Anna's mom spots it right away. Anna hasn't slept a wink all night, and her worry for Shiro hits like a wave. Carrie offers to carry Anna for her, but Stella shuts it down fast. She says Anna won't be little for long, and she wants to hug her daughter while she still can. Shiro spots Stella's exhaustion and tells her, "If you start to struggle, tell me." But she digs her heels in, refusing to speak up and refusing to let him shoulder it alone. Stella draws a hard line. She refuses to hand Anna over because Anna is her own daughter. The magpie escorts them all the way home, then sends them off with a cheerful goodbye and a wish for a good rest. Until, just as he's about to step away, Stella grabs his attention and tells him she forgot something. Then she pulls him close and invites him over to her place. Shur storms back to the store and can't believe it. This pie has grown so huge it looks unreal. He asks where the fairies live, and she tells him they whip up their homes high in the trees, so monsters can't ever reach them. Then she pivots fast. Petty leans in and asks Sherry if he still remembers the deal they made. He nods yeah, and vows to help her track down a friend. They figured a small town wouldn't take long, so they grinned and agreed to start searching the very next day, sealing it with a cheerful fist bump. Sher lines in and asks the fairy, "Is it really that hard to make the tasty drink you gave me?" Petty claims honey is simple, but getting it is anything but easy. She still remembers the last time Bitax nearly killed her, close enough to feel her life slip away. As Petty talks, the young man yanks open his backpack, hauls out a jar of honey, and asks if this will work. Petty nods, and inside her head, she can't stop wondering how he even managed to find honey. When she leans in for a closer look, shock hits her, and suddenly doubt claws in, whispering that this might not be honey at all. Her shirt is squeaky clean and fresh, like it's still straight out of the hive. The fairy plunges her finger into the jar, tastes it, and her face lights up like she's found pure magic in that flavor. With a bright grin, she promises that this honey will make her dish taste even better, so Shiri can't help wondering if that claim is actually true. He tells the guy it's time to rest, because after sleeping on the ground in that forest, his whole body is numb all the way through. Morning hits and Shira's knocked out on the couch, while a fairy lands right on her head like a pillow. Then Anna suddenly pops into view. He jolts her awake, stunned, and blurts, "Why are you here?" She explains she heard him tell Stella the shop would shut down today. The little girl blurts out that she brought food for everyone. Enchanted and honest close in, then lean right in and demand, "Hey, who's the girl sitting on my head?" Sure drops the bomb. This is Petty, his brand new boss. And when Anna's eye learns she's a fairy, he leans in and asks, with a spellbound smile, if she's anything like the fairies from those old tales. Petty demands, "Who is this kid?" And the young man answers, "Anna helps me out in the shop." Changing the subject, the fairy leans in and asks Anna if she knows any man with blue eyes and blue hair. Anna shakes her head and admits she's never met anyone like that, crushing Petty's hopes. "Of course, come on in. Anna and I still haven't met everyone in this city. But since he's small, they'll spot him fast." He tells everyone to start searching right now and turns to Patty, asking if she's in. Anna can't wait to jump in and lend a hand. Energetic Petty leans in and asks the girl straight up if she truly wants to help. Hannah nods in agreement, and the fairy bursts into joyful shrieks, absolutely thrilled to the core. Shira says they've got to hide Petty first, and Anna jumps in with the plan, stuff her in her backpack. They carefully stuff the fairy into a bag, lock everything in place, and then bolt out to track down their friend Patty. Shura swings open a pendant on his necklace and flashes a photo to the city's residents, yet not a single soul recognizes the person in it. The elf at the town hall hesitates, admits she's not sure she's seen it, and begs for the name, because hearing that would ring a bell for her. Meanwhile, the merchant Gerald scans his wares and still doesn't recognize a single thing. The dove and the mercenary are clueless too. No one has any idea who owns that shed. Schurz stares at the photo, baffled, because every one of the 27 people he talked to swears they don't remember him. And now he's itching to find out if Fairy's friend is really telling the truth, because Petty suddenly snaps back and remembers. Her friend said he lives in NK. And that's all they had, matching necklaces, stamped exactly the same. So I snapped a photo of Petty's suspension and showed it to everyone else. Then Sanka bursts in and starts hunting the guy down. And he swears he heard it. He's ditched his life again for another wild adventure with a crew of liars. She snaps at him and demands to know when he's finally going to stop scaring her like this. He blurts out an apology, but Saint Care doesn't even flinch. She shrugs it off and says the only thing that matters is that he's okay, then grins and ruffles his hair like it never happened. Anity turns bright red, but Sharon just shrugs and says he's only warmed up. To pull everyone's eyes off the truth, Saint Cara flashes the pendant shown in the photo. Sanker studies it closely, and a chilling familiarity creeps in. She knows she's seen it before, but the memory just won't surface. She swears she'll return if it clicks in her mind again. Then he presses hard, asking if she'll actually do it, just for him. Sanch flashes a grin and nods, because deep down, she can't forget how he helped her before. She flashes a quick farewell, and promises she'll swing by the guild again soon. Schur blurts out, "So you're dating Emo," and Sankara snaps back to set the record straight. She marches straight into a showdown with the Blue Flash, the crew that framed her friend, and the threat practically crackles in her eyes. But the young man blurts out that he'll go. Sankara doesn't even hear him and plows right ahead. Shira's heart s in his throat as he prays his friends, Lair, Neska, Ralph, and Keela, are safe. As she slips out, Anna blurts that Petty can sleep in her bed, then spins right back to the ferry, begging for her verdict. Petty cautiously agrees to stick with the little girl, just for tonight, and Shira laughs, calling her a tiny, all-purpose fairy. Anna strides back home with her backpack clutched tight, then turns to her mom and blurts that she's got something big to show her. Staying quiet has to be the rule. Stella freezes in surprise at first, then nods hard, swears she won't tell a soul, and leans in asking what's really going on. She snaps her head up and says, "It's in my bag." And just when she's still betting it's a lizard or a frog, boom, she's about to get the shock of her life. As soon as the girl unzips her backpack, a tiny fairy named Patty pops out, grinning from ear to ear and cheerfully asking Stella, "So, are you Anna's mom?" When Stella spots a fairy who looks just like Anna, down to the same eyes, she's frozen in pure shock, but her heart still won't stop worrying about Anna. Patty springs onto the bed Shara set up for Stella and Anna, bouncing like a rocket on pure joy, and blurts that she's never rested somewhere this comfy in her life. Stella slides in with a tray of tea, then lines in like, "So, who's that young guy Petty was talking about?" Anna cuts right into the conversation, and suddenly you can tell you're about to get way more, because the fairy freezes for a beat. Then Shiro urges her on to spill the whole story. The fairy tells it straight. It all kicked off the first time she stepped beyond her realm and spotted a young hunter in the forest chasing a unicorn rabbit. Petty didn't even know which tool he grabbed, but the moment he used it, that tweet shot out in seconds. He couldn't land a single shot. Every time his arrow missed, his face crumpled like he was seconds from crying, just like a little kid. Patty laughed so hard she couldn't stop, and her side started to ache from the pure joy of it. Fed up with his non-stop insults, she finally snapped into action, and then nailed the unicorn rabbit with pinpoint accuracy. He stared at her with pure awe and blurted out a question like she was a fairy. That's how their first meeting went. After he took a bite of the unicorn rabbit, he burst into tears, then gushed that it was the most delicious thing ever, and that totally freaked out the fairy, because she'd always thought the dish was disgusting. Then he confessed that he hadn't eaten right for days, and it showed. The grateful boy blurted that she'd just saved his life, then demanded her name, but she stalled for a beat like she didn't want to say it. She remembered how merciless people had been to her in the past, and she promised, "When you finally learn to hunt better, I'll tell you everything." Soon enough, they started hunting as a team, and with every run, they honed their skills until they were absolute masters. He leaned in and asked Petty if she'd dressed up enough, so she could finally share her name with him. She was over the moon and ready to blurt it out, but the sting of being labeled a cursed child snapped her right back into silence. She choked on the words, couldn't say her name at all, so she swore she'd reveal it later. He started to worry, but he swallowed it and didn't push, because that was their final meeting. Petty leans in and tells Anna, "Yeah, we used to be friends, and even though they both felt lonely, somehow it didn't hurt as much when they were together." The fairy insists, no wavering, that that she has to track him down, get his name, and finally learn it for herself. She confessed she'd talked way too much, then, right when she noticed water dripping down, she asked if it was rain, only for Anna to come rushing back with tear-filled eyes. Tears spilling down her face, Anna swears they'll find her friend for sure, and the fairies she touched nod along like they're in it with her. 2 hours earlier, Shur bursts out of the portal in comfy home clothes, towel in hand, already daydreaming about nothing but a scorching hot bath back home. Then he heads out to the store's balcony, eyes locked on the sunset as it burns across the sky. Suddenly, Ellie yells for him, and the young man snaps back, telling her to hang on, he'll be down in a minute. Just like every year before it, Shira clocks something unsettling in the middle of it all. Shira can't stop worrying about the warrior. His face is puffed up like he just got punched, and she blurts, "What happened to you?" Lyra shrugs it off like it's no big deal, then blurts out what happened. Saint Kara stormed into the guild seething with rage. Lyra demanded, "Are you here just to scream at us for dragging Shura on a dangerous trip?" And the mayor snapped back, "Yeah, don't expect me to pity a soul." Then the warrior urged her to smack him too, insisting it worked on him. The shadow lunged forward and slammed the deceiver right in the face with everything it had. Seeing just how deadly strong he was, the captain of Azure Flash froze for a second, then pulled Shira aside and invited him to share a drink at the guild. They say Emo and the guild master are coming with them, and Shur nods right away. She's convinced it's a smart move. Everyone packed into the guild bar, threw their heads back, and toasted like champions. The lyre slams the countdown into motion, and the whole crowd erupts in happy, synchronized cheers. Keela, Amal, and May Jonian clink their drinks together, like the night is about to explode. As Shura and Lur slam their drinks, Ralph watches them closely for a beat, then pushes himself up to his feet. So Laird lines in and asks, "What's got you off, buddy?" Nate lines in and asks, "So you didn't like the beer, right?" Shura fumbles through an awkward confession. He hates beer, and shoots off a quick, sincere apology. But Nate shrugs it off and snaps, "Yeah, I don't care, I don't like it either." Amy blurts in disbelief, "Is that really true?" And the guildmaster nods to confirm it. We quietly realize the drink options were so limited that every try ended in failure. She says the right alternatives could exist, but the price they tag on them is absolutely outrageous. Keela tells everyone, "This time I'm craving wine or cider, nothing else." They wear a serious face, but they smell absolutely amazing, so Nesk steps in and tells her not to build her hopes too high. Shur, tipsy and grinning like he's daring the world, tosses out a joke. "So the local wine's really that sour and that bad." He cracks jokes that if you've never tasted wine or only sipped the pricey stuff, you're not a connoisseur at all, just a rich merchant playing pretend. Sheer says he's got nothing, then swears he's sitting on some seriously good wine at home, and it cost him next to nothing. He lays out 3 kinds, red, white, and rosa, and the whole room is left utterly stunned. Yeah, Edsy knows all about orange wine. She points out that every kind hits differently, with its own unmistakable vibe. Wines don't come in just one flavor. Some hit sweet, some go dry, some feel light, others pack a serious punch, and the price tag swings from pretty affordable to downright outrageous. He tells you wine snobs match drinks to food, but then he lines in and admits he'd rather drink sake. Like wine, it comes in different flavors. Take Jingo and Jume, for example. Suddenly, Shur catches it. Every eye in the bar is locked on him, and then the older adventurer leans in and practically shouts, "All right, go on, it's your turn." He tells you how his homeland's trade with other countries has flooded the streets with all kinds of drinks from everywhere. The crowd stares at him with pure curiosity, and Shurs instantly clocks it as a golden chance to make a move. He turns to them and demands they come back in 3 days, then swears he'll bring drinks from their homeland for everyone. 3 days later, Shura looked totally different. Kong's hair had sprouted back, and he strutted around in a slick bartender's suit. Anna breaks into compliments about his style, and he fires back with the exact same energy. Stella can't stop staring. She calls him professional, and Shira immediately chimes in, saying he looks absolutely incredible. Lai shows up and spots everyone looking ridiculously stylish. Then she turns to ask, "Is Anna helping out too?" Sherry didn't want that young girl slaving away, but the girl dug in her heels, and Sherry didn't stop there. She even marched her mother along to make it happen. Neska tells him everything's set. She's already whipped up the ice with magic. While Keela pours drinks, Shiro drops off everyone's go-to treat. Neska snaps up the chocolate liqueur, and Keela grabs the fruit wine. He offers Anna something to drink, and she blushes, then timidly asks for gin. Then she blurts out that she wants ginger ale, and right around her, the crowd starts snapping, demanding to know when they're finally getting to drink. Shiro thanks everyone for waiting, kicks off the event, and straight up introduces himself as Shiro, the owner of Shiro's store. He claims he hauled drinks straight from his store to lift everyone's spirits after the forest grind, but plenty of people still side-eyed him like, "Yeah, right, where'd all that stuff even come from?" He tells them he hauled in a ton of delicious snacks to go with the drinks. A few adventurers whisper, "Are you an alchemist?" But nobody really presses him on it. Everyone's practically buzzing for those delicious drinks, and when the celebration finally kicks off, what she serves lights up the whole guild with pure joy. Everyone's pumped, ready to taste the wild flavors he swore he'd bring from his homeland, until Shira steps up and shouts that every drink is free today, then dares the crowd to go all out, and the place instantly erupts in pure joy. A young man can't stop stressing over the 3 million yen he just splurged, but he's convinced it's worth every bit, calling it a smart investment. He strides up to Guildmaster Ne Mirage to greet everyone, and Ne beams back, happy to welcome everyone in the room. Tell them to go have fun, because tomorrow work is coming fast. With eyes wide and stomachs roaring, the adventurers burst into cheers and dash to the counter to snatch their dishes. A huge crowd swarmed Shura and trapped him in a corner, until Ne burst in and tore the situation open. He stomps the floor like he's seizing control of the whole scene, eyes blazing, and warns them that if they don't calm down, this celebration could be cut off right now. Shirer flashes a grateful smile at her, the moment the group falls into perfectly neat rows. The first liar leaned in, asked Sherry what she wanted to drink, and jabbed a finger at the bottle like he was dying to get his hands on it. A young man flashes a smug grin and confidently insists, "This is beer in a bottle." And some crafty tricksters deliberately squeeze in lemon juice to crank the flavor up. The leader of Blue Lightning takes Anna's advice, squeezes fresh lemon into his beer, and then his eyes widen as he tastes it. Suddenly it's bubbly, crisp, and the lemon kicks in with a perfect, bright zing. So he boldly takes a sip from his mug, and right away Sure points out that a pinch of salt would crank up the flavor. Then everyone starts asking for the exact same thing. The visitors light up with joy, and right then Shira turns to Stella and demands the bottle sitting on his right. Anna ordered a Mexican drink, then crashed into the chair, exhaustion hitting hard after she couldn't keep up with everything they kept demanding. A young man looks around and realizes the night's hitting perfectly. Everyone nearby is living it up like nothing can stop the fun. Right then, a fresh visitor slides in with a grin and demands the strongest drink they've got. Some travelers whisper his name as Alo, the unstoppable hero the 16 legends can't kill. Sure straight up asks if he truly wants the strongest drink, then hands over spirits, so potent it can even make a fire catch. He pours a drink into a tiny glass, but Alo grumbles loud, steaming over the paltry amount. Zerka stared at Shira, snapped that he was still a child, even though Zerka himself is over 200 years old, and you could see the irritation flare, because he absolutely hated being treated like the little one. But she insists the drink is brutally strong, so strong, with 96% alcohol, that one single sip can drop him flat on his back. Alo bristles and insists he's never once been drunk, then challenges the comment right there. A young man grabs him by the moment and tells him to calm down fast, because that huge dose could turn deadly in seconds. The traveler, itching to prove his power, tosses off his cloak and dares the whole situation to an honest street fight. No tricks, just a showdown. Right now, the humble priest Ralph steps out into the spotlight and introduces himself like he's about to change everything. Alo blazes, sharp-eyed, and demands, "So, are you finally going to kick off the sermon, or what?" He snapped that Shiro had trampled his dwarven pride, because, in his eyes, dwarves don't just drink, they're born chugging straight from barrels, and that booze runs hot through their veins. Ralph nods at Eva's feelings with steady calm, and once she gives him the green light, he jumps in and lays out his solution. The gnome won't budge until Ralph spills everything, and Ralph fires back that he can cast a healing spell, normally meant to fight poison, to calm the poison of intoxication instead. Ralph whips around to Shura and tells him, if Illil suddenly keels over after that drink, you'll be the one who can fix him. Then Ralph looks everyone in the eye and asks if that plan works for them. Everyone nodded and flat out admitted it. They truly believed that drink would take him down. He battled deadly monsters, demonic lords and ancient dragons, and refused to back down, not even once. Whenever those legendary foes get brought up, the whole crowd erupts in pure adrenaline, and everyone shouts for the dwarf like it's the moment of a lifetime. Shurer snaps his attention over. Ela suddenly looks way bigger as soon as he barks, demanding a drink. He lays down a wild bet. If he gets drunk, Shira gets to pick any reward she wants. But if he pulls this off, he's set for free drinks for life, no exceptions. Elo thrusts the mug into Shiro's hands and demands it filled to the brim, Then Shiro grins, accepts the challenge, and goes along with it. The gnome sniffs the spirus, eyes widening, and blurts out that he's never once smelled anything this intense. Even before he shoves his mother into the crowd's glare, he's already so drunk he can barely stand. The little one gulps down every crumb, and the earthworm just stares in shock as the gnome finally exhales, relieved to the bone. He grumbles that his stomach, in flames, then slams a mug down on the table like he's losing his mind. He steps right up to the young man and boldly asks, "Do you look drunk to you?" Shira snaps her head around and blurts that she totally misread him, and just like that, she lost the bet. He bursts into loud laughter and tells the guy, "Now you're buying my drinks on my schedule anytime I want." He staggers so hard that he topples backward onto the floor, totally smashed out drunk. A young guy fired up with excitement and told Eldo, "Don't chug it all at once. Seriously, slow down." If that role hadn't picked him up, he might have either stormed into legend as a hero or never been one at all. And the worst part is, alcohol bent his choices sideways. The gnome nods like, "Yeah," and the other adventurers crack jokes, because they've never seen us this humiliated before. Especially after countless fights, alcohol finally came for him and tore him down. They're stuck debating what to name the drink, and one of them suddenly blurts, "Wait, this sounds like it came straight out of Spy Stuff." They toss around the name, Toro Killer Little, for the drink, and does she even realize it's about to explode in popularity, spreading across the continent like a raging storm. The guild hall is packed with adventurers, all face-planted on the floor after one too many roaring feasts. Neska's cheeks flamed red with sheer joy, and she swore she'd never tasted anything so delicious. Then Keela chimed in that she wanted to grab some of that sweet for her friends. Meanwhile, Laratary 80 leans in and demands to know if they're really guzzling every last supply the Shirers have. Sure admits it's a painful price, but now every adventure lights a spark in him, pushing him to brew up brand new beer. The liar locks eyes with him like he's witnessing greatness, then flat out praises him as a legendary merchant. The young guy admits that if the late-night hustle eased even a bit of that pressure, then he's genuinely glad. So these two adventurers start bickering, but the booze hits them hard. They just keel over and pass out right there, and he smiles because this is perfect for him, since Anna usually takes care of guild deliveries. Killa slams his hand on Shryu's back, grins, and loudly tells him he's a straight-up cool guy. The young man mutters that it's all over and done, but the cat won't back down. She swears she barely even touched him. Meanwhile, the liar starts to spiral, wondering why they ever agreed to meet up that night in the first place. The warrior stares at the box, and then spots fairy wings peeking out like they're about to spring free. She whips around and asks her if her friend has shown up yet. The gloomy kid shakes his head and says, "Nope, I haven't." Then the young man leans in and fires back, "So you're probably not the adventuring type." And just when Shura's sacrifice finally hits her, the fairy starts blurting out a desperate apology. The young man and the warrior stare at her with heavy sympathy. Days have already piled up, and there's still zero word about Petty's friend. The boy stormed through the city flashing that pendant to everyone, but not a single person recognized it, and even his flyers fell flat. Shuru leans in and tells the fairy that her friend might have slipped out of the city. "I'm telling you, beyond their city, there are tons of other human cities out there." Petty swears it's about 20, but Anna just shrugs like he's missing the point and says it's way more. Petty slumps her shoulders, terrified by the crowd, and she can't even picture how she'll manage to find a friend in all this. Until Sankara starts slamming on the door, screaming Shura's name and demanding she come out. The young man spots the mayor's grim face and Saint Kara's stare, jolts in surprise, and blurts that the way this guy looks, he's like he already guessed who he is. She swears she remembers that pendant clear as day, so she tears through the whole house, hunting nonstop, until she finally spots it. Shankara pops open a tiny box, slides out a necklace full of pendants, and Shiro instantly clocks it. Mirka claims the item once belonged to her great-grandfather, the very first mayor of Monorak, and asks who their great-great-grandfather is, and Shur leans in and answers, "It's your grandfather's grandfather." Sankar can't believe they're hunting down her great-great-grandfather, until the fairy cuts in and tells him it all happened because of her request. The fairy's eyes widened the second she saw the boy, and she blurted out, "What's going on?" So the boy spilled the entire story, start to finish. Sankara's jaw dropped when she found out her ancestor had been friends with a fairy. Then Petty demands, "Where is he?" And the mayor just stares, totally baffled at why she'd even ask. The fairy leans in and drops the truth. Saint Kara is the daughter of her friend's son, so yeah, they're family, blood relatives. Sankar nods, but Petty won't back down. She hammers the question. She has to know where he is right now, and that relentless push leaves Sankar even more stunned. When Petty finally gets what's happening to her, she blurts out, "Okay, how long do fairies usually live?" And Petty snaps that her family line has bragged about 3,000 years of history, yet she's only 300 years old herself. The mayor declares that for people, reaching 100 years is pure, soul-deep happiness. She remembers her great-great-grandfather had long ago died. This surprise lands because it's Petty. She still remembers every single time they brushed her off. Turns out even her own parents didn't love her, so she convinced herself that if she vanished, nobody would even notice. One night under the full moon's glare, she snapped the rules, shot past her borders, and flew until she finally found her friend. For the first time, someone finally looked at her with warmth in their eyes and kindness in their heart. He was the first to thank her, lit up with a smile, and pulled her into games and wild adventures together. He even put his life on the line to shield her, then pressed a precious pendant into her hands, proof of their bond. And it was the first time anyone had ever given her something this priceless. She clung to every second they shared, because before this, she'd never had real friends, and now she finally had true friendship in her life. He became her closest friend, so close that when it finally happened, she cried tears of pure happiness for the very first time. She hesitated before giving her name, terrified that one word would snap the fragile connection between them. She swallowed her fear, terrified that one honest word could snap their friendship in half. So she kept dodging the talk, again and again, telling herself she'd bring it up later. He never pushed her, he just promised he'd stay there until the perfect moment came. Now that he's gone, Petty finally understands the truth. The only place she ever really felt safe was right by his side. Anna and Shiri stare at her with pity pressing. "So what now? Are you really going back to the fairies?" She finally admits it. She has nowhere to go, and then drops the bombshell that she was kicked out of her homeland. She lifts her hand and flashes the mark on her side, then demands everyone's focus on the brand burned into her stomach. She says that among fairies, it's basically a warning sign, walking disaster. She confessed she sometimes wished she'd never existed, especially since even her own parents kept throwing judgment her way. Still, she kept living a pretty normal life, until rhinoceros beetles moved in near the ferry crossing in Nessie. Hundreds of them dropped to their knees and prayed to the fairies for food. Then, almost immediately, their ranks exploded and kept multiplying fast. The fairies wouldn't budge from that spot until every last bite was gone. Before anyone could catch their breath, the whole crowd snapped and blamed Petty. Right away, Shia Grossandry. She swears it's all a scapegoat job, like the beetles didn't show up because of her, not a single bit. Petty straight up admits it, she caused the mess. And because that cursed situation, the clan leader slapped the name Petty Fulu right onto her. That's a person who forges their own road in life and isn't scared to speak the truth. She tried to dodge her fate, but he still grabbed her by the decision and kicked her out. So now Patty can't help but wonder if that whole thing isn't just plain weird. So she's sure that this was the exact reason. She decided to save him, convinced that if she rescued this senseless kid, it would finally lead her to the one thing she's been craving, a real friend. And that's when it finally hit her. She'd been the fool all along. Hannah fixes her with a look full of sympathy, and then tears start to spill as Patty softly strokes her head. She begged her, "Don't cry, if you do, I'm going to break too," and they clung to each other, both shaking with tears as they sobbed side by side. Shur strides up to him and blurts out, "Can I ask you something?" I can't stop thinking, does Patty really want to go save those fairies? She snaps back with a quick yes, and when he asks if she still believes it even after her exile, she dips her head and tells him, "I owe my name to the leader, and even if my parents never truly loved me, they still stuck around. They're still her family, so of course she's desperate to step in and help them." And Shiro leans in, eyes sharp, and pushes the idea, "Let's go save them." Petty challenges him, "Are you really serious?" And he grins, then tells her full confidence that he means it. She pleads for the fairies' lives, and Anna jumps in too, earnest as she can, begging Shira to help. He promises it'll all work out, then declares their first stop is the Avengers Guild. Right after they arrive, the adventurers huddle up and trade whispers about Shira, while a young man steps forward, begs the guildmaster to wipe out a pack of rhinoceros beetles, and she nods, dead sure she's got his request covered. But he can't bring himself to take it, because in his mind it's totally, completely impossible. Shuru got captured, and Anna and Petty had to stand behind him, crushed and defeated. The guild leader Straytup warns that wiping out the rhinoceros beetle nest is brutally hard. To join in, at least half the guild's adventurers have to team up for the case. The boy's stomach drops as he starts fretting over the insane cost of hiring all those people. But she insists it's not only about the money, there's something missing. the guild boss says they've got no real influence to make it happen. Right now, most adventurers are out in the forest, tearing through ancient ruins like they're racing the clock. If those nests were closer to the city, they'd be able to pull together and help, but since the fairy territory sits far out, gathering them becomes a nightmare. She shoots off an apology for not being able to help, then dashes off to deal with the next urgent thing. Shura refuses to give up and snaps, "Stop." Then the guy throws out a brand new plan. Think of it like a handshake promise, not some official seal on real paperwork. She stares at him like she's lost, so he grabs the moment and demands she listens, every word, right up to the end. He snags her focus and then, bam, whips out his special power, tearing open a portal straight in front of her eyes. Nee stares in stunned awe as Shur tells her that this is his one-of-a-kind skill. He lays out his plan. Once the adventurers hit the ruins, he'll unleash his power to shove objects like armor around, turning everything into a turbocharged machine. Sure, it might take a few days to scrub out the bugs, but they're not going to sit around. No time for research. Then he turns to the guild master and demands to know what she really thinks. May admits it sounds incredible, and it instantly sparks hope in the young man's heart. His grin collapses the second she flashes her adorable, charming item that stores stuff, then casually proves she can open the inventory too. The Strigali are stunned, and Nace adds the kicker. It can hold as much as 3 carts. And he's absolutely furious about it. Nee apologizes again, clearly refusing his request without backing down. Suddenly, Isla bursts in and demands to know what the heck is going on here. Elo can't stop asking, did this guy get himself into trouble or what? She shot a quick glance to make sure he wasn't causing too much of a racket, then dropped an apology, because he insists he has to get rid of those forest rhinoceros beetles. Isla Edward paused for a breath, then flat out said he wasn't adding a single thing. Shiro freezes in shock and demands, "Wait, are you seriously asking me to help? And why in the world are you offering something like that?" The dwarf throws him right back into the argument they just had. And the boy remembers it all, even as the older one huffs and grumbles that he's long since forgotten every last bit. If you're still wondering whether he's even real, ask, because Nate just made it sound like this is an absolutely huge deal. The gnome grinds his axe to a razor edge, muttering that he's not one of the weaklings, because those biolass are getting dealt with by him, and him alone. Right then, the liar shows up out of nowhere, and drops the bomb that he overheard the whole thing. Plus, the Blue Flash volunteers jumped in too, signing up to help with the action. Nate bursts in, sword raised, and blurts that the guild rules forbid unapproved jobs, because if you step outside the book, consequences are coming. O cuts in fast, blurting that she messed up. Then Liar nods along and backs the gnome. Elo lost the bet, and now he's stuck helping Shiro pay back that debt. Keela cracks a joke, saying that in the middle of that argument, the dwarf totally humiliated himself in front of everyone. Os tells her to shut it, and Lair fires back. His crew are loyal friends of the Tongs. He'll help them out, no payment needed. Neska from Sarshar straight up nails it. If you don't get paid for it, it's not a real job. Keela pulled Shura into a tight hug and promised that anytime their friends needed backup, they'd show up, no questions asked, every single time. Heart swelling with gratitude, the young man thanks everyone and vows that once they wipe out the beetles, they'll celebrate this victory together. Some wild adventures pop off here, and everyone's basically begging. Does asking for help mean we're getting more treats and drinks? A young man shrugs and says, "It all depends," then casually drops the bombshell that he stumbled on a bottle of rare fairy meat while digging through his supplies. The traveler's eyes light up as he grips that legendary drink, and he darts right in to share the moment with everyone else desperate to taste it too. With eyes blazing, she whips around and snaps that this can't stand. Everyone has to lock in on the ruins, and she jabs at the young man as she says it. She's stuck wondering what proof he's got that this thing is really his. Then Petty pops out from Anna's backpack. She flashed the item, proving it was real. Then she revealed she made it herself. Shur demands answers. Why did their leader ditch the shelter? They're blown away when they spot the fairy, and they immediately pepper the guy with questions, asking what on earth is going on here. A young man lets out a heavy sigh and admits Patty's his boss, then drops the bomb that it was her idea to get rid of the early sour bugs in the first place. The fairy clung to just one wish, to save herself, but that kind of miracle needed more than hope, because the one guy she could count on turned out to be a traitor who couldn't survive those deadly creatures alone. So with pure determination in his eyes, he drops to his knees in front of the guild master and pleads, "Nea, please save the fairies." Tears blur his vision as she drops to her knees right beside him, rushing to get help and rescue Petty's family before it's too late. The fairy swears that if they smash the beetles, she'll pull off something amazing for everyone, and she grabs Naya and begs her to help the fairies. Nathan's having a rough day, and he can't help but grumble that Shira's been way too strict with him. It feels like the whole disaster is pinning the blame on her. The guild master roars, "Bronze-level adventurers, grab your gear. Battle's coming." They were plotting to wipe out the rhinoceros beetle nest, and she fired the order, "Follow me to G Forest." So the whole team hit the road with zero doubt. They push on a little farther until Petty snaps, "We're already here." Sure freezes, staring as Petty points straight at the dungeon entrance and reveals the truth. The nest is inside. Petty snarls that the monsters up there snatch fairies and never, ever let them slip away. Near the cave entrance, a swarm of fairies flutters in, starving, but terrified to step outside, so she whips around and asks Naif. He was so certain these ruins had to be the exact remains of the ancient magical civilization the guild had hunted for years. The ferryman shrugs and says that Eerie Cave has been standing here for ages, and their leader swore it was carved by an ancient civilization long buried in time. Nate can't even believe what he's seeing, and it's like the dream finally cracked open and became real. Then she yanks out a map, lays it flat, and lays out her whole plan, splitting everyone into 3 groups by rank. 6 adventurers from Michael's guild, always ready to keep everyone safe, kicked off their mission with a brutal strike and surged straight into the ruins. 17 golden adventurers charged straight into the entrance and started smashing every monster that burst out. 15 silver rank adventurers stand ready to crush anyone who dares break through. She keeps barking orders at O to stay put, insisting that any seasoned platinum adventurer knows the truth. You have to stay on high alert because trouble can strike any second. Shura shoots a warning, "I'm going into the lair alone," but just then the gnome springs up and shrieks. Nezak couldn't believe what he was seeing, and before he even had time to react, other adventurers did the exact same thing, sending them all into pure irritation. As she tears into those reckless adventurers, she spills every detail straight to the blues. Flash keeps his eyes sharp on Shiro, Patty, and the rest, while the entire crew swears they've got this and won't let anything slip. Then the whole plan flips, Elo bursts into action, and everyone rushes after him into the lair, ready to draw the monsters out of those ruins. The heroes are locked in a brutal fight, battling monster after monster with every ounce of their strength. Meanwhile, she checks his watch and gasps. 2 full hours have vanished since they went inside, and she can't stop praying everyone's okay when, out of nowhere, young Nay shows up. The guy closes the distance fast and leans in to demand, "So how's the task going?" But he always cracks up loud, then leans in and demands to know what Shira really thinks of him. With his trusty axe riding on his shoulder, the dwarf pounds his chest and brags he's not even the slightest bit tired. She nods and swears he basically took care of every single bill by himself. The guild leader swears she witnessed it all with her own eyes, then vows that not a single monster is left breathing. Shira can't even get a single word out. She's so stunned that O just one-handedly wiped out hundreds of monsters. He doesn't buy it for a second. He's itching to know if this monster's final boss was a queen. But the gnome swears he knows nothing, and if it ever existed, he probably smashed it to pieces and wiped out everything else too. Then he whips around to Nay, tells him, "I'm starving," and asks straight up if they brought meat and drinks. Shira whips around to Patty and declares it's great news. At first the fairy balked, then it finally caved in and agreed. And the boy lines in, asking if she's ready to tell the other fairies everything. Right as she's about to answer, Howdy suddenly catches a blood-curdling cry for help. She fires the question at him, "Did you hear it too?" But Shira just stares like he has no clue what she's talking about. Out of nowhere, a plan lights up in her mind. She snaps up from her spot like she's been struck by lightning. Right then the alarm blares and the girl panics, saying she has to run now. Shiru, a young man, starts to worry and chases after her, and Lyre demands, "Where do you think you're rushing off to?" Then bam, odd little sounds crackle through the air, and a tiny fairy swoops in, begging for help. Right as Petty storms in, the monster's razor claws snatch the little fairy midair, leaving Petty no choice but to fight. She freezes on the spot, terrified that her own magic might accidentally hurt the captive fairy. Petty lunges straight for the monster, hurling a demand to free the little fairy, but the beetle snaps forward and slams her back. Shira sprints in, panicking, while Keela leaps onto the monster and declares she knows exactly where its weak spot is. She drives her blade straight into the insect, and the tiny fairy tumbles down, falling fast, like gravity just snapped. Right then Nesca snaps her hand forward, conjures a magical spear, and slams it into the monster, while Patty rockets up to snag the falling fairy. He frantically checks that she's okay, again and again. "So make sure you thank that sorceress and that scout for saving you." Then Lyre whips his head around, scans for them, and blurts, "You okay?" because just moments ago he and Ralph were still battling fresh monsters. The warrior snaps that this is deadly serious, because the nest is exploding with insects, and they're crawling out nonstop, swarming the whole group from every side. He was completely stunned, because right in front of him, the gnome wiped them all out like it was nothing. One of the adventurers lunges forward and blurts out, "I found a hidden exit right behind the nest." Before this, the whole place stayed, buried under the wreckage of a monster. Nances snaps at herself, blaming every bit of this disaster on her as the guild's head, right in front of Kidding and Blaine, watching the damage she caused. Petty shoots a warning. If nobody acts fast, that fairy's going to turn into a death trap. Sherry leans in and asks if she can pull off the same magic again, the one she used before. Lyra growls that the enemies won't stop pouring in. Then she spots a boy holding a pie and demands to know what he's up to. Sher stops the ferry crew and asks if it's ready, because they have to move as one. Then she nods and says she's ready too. A young man grips his homemade flamethrower beside Patty, ready to light the whole moment on fire. They unleash a savage burst of flame, boom, and when the fire clears, the monster is nothing but ashes. They're stunned their plan worked so damn well, maybe even a little too well, because the road to the stars is still nowhere near over. Lyre pauses, then blurts out, wondering if the kid is the real deal, or just pretending to be a magician. Nesca jolts forward and snaps her finger at the map. A monstrous giant with razor-sharp, terrifying teeth erupts across the sky, and the world instantly goes silent in fear. Lyra's jaw drops in shock, while Nesca grins and insists with full confidence that this is absolutely the queen. Keela's eyes widen in shock at just how massive it is. Sher leans in and asks Petty if she can cast the spell again. Petty flashes a confident grin and swears she'll deal with that pest for good, no sweat at all. Ralph shrieks a warning as the queen beetle rockets forward, jaws huge and snapping at him. They both agreed to leave it at that. No more demands, but then O showed up and jumped into the mess. He slammed down like lightning incarnate, unleashing crackling justice and blasting the monster with electric shocks. The wounded queen starts to crumple, and the dwarf shoots out an apology, because he's finally here, late as ever. Shira thanks Eldos, but Eldos just shrugs it off and says, "Nah, I'm only settling the score." It's been ages since that dwarf last threw everything he had into one brutal swing, axe in hand, the trusty blade sealed as a gift from the immortal sorceress. What's so special about Eldos's tale, and why does it matter? Shirka leans in and demands to know if justice is etched straight onto that axe. And that's it confirmed. By slapping on this seal, you unleash the magic of justice, twice every single day. The young man's mind snaps back to his past. His grandmother loved the action movie True Justice, the one starring Steven Seagal. Eldos blurts, stunned, "Where did you even learn that?" And Sher spills the entire story without holding back. The dwarf can't help but stare, wondering if he's somehow Alice Goose Grayson just because the faces match, and then, right on cue, someone yells, "Petty." She blurts out, "What's going on?" and whips around just in time to face the clan leader. The moment the Circle Fairy burst out of the forest, everything changed. Lara stares in disbelief at how many show up, while Nesca's eyes light up. She's totally smitten by how cute they are. The clan leader drops his voice and demands to know why Petty showed up. She'd been expelled, so why are people suddenly clashing with the Beatles? Rage tightens Patty's face as she snaps back that he shouldn't care at all, because he kicked her out himself, so she owes him no explanations. Shuren closes in, steps up to the leader, and tells him, straight to his face, that Patty saved his life. He got invited to unleash himself, smash the monsters, and save the fairies. The old elder leans in and demands, "So, did Patty come back to rescue us?" And just like that, the irony hits hard. What's cursed ends up saving them. Nesca blurts out a question out of nowhere, and Petty yanks up her shirt to show the witch a birthmark on her belly. Then she explains, trembling, that if a fairy is born with that mark, it spells misfortune for every relative she has. The witch's eyes widen in pure shock. She realizes this is a seal. Nesca leans in and tells the guild sorceress that this symbol marks the ones with magic, so powerful, it practically lights up their fate. Petty tells it like a nightmare. Back then, so many people with the seal were devoured, because their own power slipped the leash and turned on them. But yeah, that was ages ago, once they figured out the truth. With the right basic skills, anyone can learn magic. And now, most of them are blazing into their final form, turning into the strongest witches ever, fueled by that insane power. Some tribes still tremble at the seal and don't get what it really means, because the truth is, it's a gift straight from the gods. The tribe's elder is left speechless, because this destroys the legend they swore was true. And Nesca steps in and promises to teach Petty the magic she mastered at the academy, and Petty is completely overwhelmed, touched to the core. And the wizard tells her, master your powers right, and next time, you'll lend a hand to the fairies yourself. Her clan leader, her own grandfather, drops to the truth, apologizing for everything she had to suffer, and admitting with a heavy heart that he's ashamed to be the head of their lineage. The elder drops to his knees, and regret crashes over him like a wave. But Petty blocks his path and fires back that it was the expulsion itself that led her straight to Shira, and helped her save everyone, leaving the fairy utterly stunned. She tells the Ashane elves they've never even heard of Ron. Later in Shuru's shop, he leans in and asks, Patty, will you sail back to the kingdom of fairies? Because her grandfather is pleading for it. Petty nods along and Anna's eyes flood with tears. She can't bear to say goodbye. Petty knows people don't stick around forever, so if she clings to them, sooner or later she'll be dumped and left on her own anyway. She didn't come for small talk. She came hunting Shura, the one person who actually understands her. She turns to everyone and hits them with a heartfelt thank you for all the help. Suddenly, Sankara bursts in, clutching a letter she dug out of her great-grandfather's things, addressed straight to Petty's friends. Petty leaned in and told her, read this for me, and then her buddy said she was his best friend. Because they swore they'd meet again, years dragged on, seasons spun, and time ripped forward. And he blurts that her touch is somehow draining his hands, thinning them down right in front of him. He can barely stand on his own 2 feet, so running's out of the question, but in his head he's sprinting beside her, racing through the forest as she reads. He bumped into an elf who swore fairies outlive humans, then translated her name for him. She learns how to cut fate. He was absolutely hooked on her name, Fulu, so he said it out loud as he wrote it down. And this guy's name is Sankara, and he throws Petty a grateful thank you, because you're the one who gave him his life. Anna clutched a letter from her ancestors, and it revealed that Petty meant everything to her great-grandfather's heart. Petty remembers he was Sankara, the only friend who ever learned her name, then watched her fall for someone, start a family, and even grow into great-grandchildren, just like she says. With tears spilling down her face, Petty beams and says she's so happy. Sankara truly lived a wonderful life. Shur tells her for people, life can vanish in a blink, but for real friendship, time doesn't stand a chance. The young man tells Petty that Sankara will stay her heartbeat in her heart, no matter what, and then wipes away her tears himself. The fairy backs him up, and even Shankara can't help but feel how painfully touching it all is. The boy begs the fairy to remember him and Anna, then to carry them forever in its heart, even if it's just a tiny piece of the bigger story. The boy yanks a photo from his pocket. There, he is grinning with Anna and Petty, flashing peace signs like the world's safe, yet somehow it reveals nothing at all. He claims every person in that photo is his friend, and yeah, they're not just any friends, they're his absolute best ones. Petty gets choked up and Anna, tears shining, nods hard, swearing that she and the fairies are true partners. The blue flash bursts onto the stage, then the smiling liar shows up too, grinning like, see, we're all friends, and those meowing quackunks chime in, purring that they're lucky beyond words to be friends with Poram. Nesca steps closer, her expression set like stone, and Petty says she understands her, totally, no doubt about it. Nesca tells him that since she's half-elf, she'll outlive humans by a mile, but she still loves that lying human with all her heart, bold and fearless. The warrior stares at her, and the sorceress whispers that every second she spends with him will burn itself into her heart forever. Nesca lines in and demands the fairy tell her what she's planning to do. Petty steps up with total confidence, swears she's not scared of a thing, and says she'll stick with them, because the clan leader hasn't even told them when they're supposed to come back. Nesca even offered to teach her magic, but Petty still couldn't bring herself to walk away. Petty needles Anna, snatches at her pride by calling her a crybaby, and declares that he won't let her go. She realizes time hits them like a weird spell. Each moment drags or snaps depending on who's watching, so she'll only crawl back to her kingdom when she decides, or when her body finally gives out and she dies. He laughs like he's panicking, insisting he's not old yet. No way, not that old. Anna squeezes Terry in a big hug, and the second Petty barrels up, she grumbles about the fact that the hug caught her off guard. 2 months slam by, and the most important holiday finally crashes into town. Boom, the city lights up with decorations everywhere, and you can practically feel the whole place lift off the ground. Shura swore the mayor he'd help. Now he's hounding Anna to snap photos of the town's residents. While he and Shankar are dealing with Nakshan, a young guy grins as he brandishes a bottle of spirits, the drink that kills heroes, then shouts he's taking bets, while the crowd goes wild, scrapping over every single item. Sheer reveals the riddle's final twist, a heavenly drink, and only the fairy's chosen ones get to taste it. Then he hoists the bottle with the meat. The whole city boasts that Petty, now the face of tourism, pulled it off all on her own, and when Chiru tells everyone to shout a big hello, the fairy instantly turns shy. The auction kicks off with a single gold coin as the starting bid, and this young man cranks the danger up even higher. When it's finally all over, Sankara and Shiro plop down on a bench in the square to catch their breath, while the guy braggingly waves off his victory. Yeah, he sold the meat at the auction, and cackles at how hilariously the mayor turned out on the label. Shankara says anyone would snap like that at a bounty this big. Then he pockets 50 gold coins for the drink, while Shira grins and vows she'll refill the city's treasury. The mayor grabbed Shura's hand and fired off his gratitude, because it was Shura who made everything succeed. Embarrassed, this kid with a big mouth claims it was his idea, but Petty's the one who did the real heavy lifting, so Sankar better thank her. The man gives a sharp nod, and Petty steps in closer. They start talking, and as the conversation kicks off, the fairy suddenly remembers something and tosses out a casual question. She can't stop wondering, could Shura and Sankara actually have a child? Shura starts mixing up words, and suddenly her world tilts. She gets completely disoriented. Shankara's face flushes crimson, and he blurts out, "We're not even together." The fairy says Stella filled her in on reincarnation, then drops a hint that the kid could bring your friend back. Yeah, and that's when things got painfully awkward. They say people don't just jump into starting a family. Before they have kids, they throw special rituals and celebrations to mark the moment. Sankara blinked in disbelief, stumbled back, and snapped that he wouldn't even move forward until the right stages were cleared and the real hardships were crushed. Petty cuts them off mid-sentence, snaps for silence, and fires a stern question at Sure. "Tell me you don't refuse, okay?" Her voice is razor-sharp and impossible to ignore. A young man throws out a joke about having a child right here, then snaps and admits it's already abusing power. Right then, Stella and Anna burst onto the scene, and the girl leans in, asking, "So the auction already end?" Sure nods that she's got a photo, and she can't resist asking why you decided to snap it in the first place. She beamed and said she totally loved the idea of getting a group photo with everyone, and he jumped in, agreeing it was an awesome plan. In this city, there weren't any streetlights, but tonight the lanterns lit the whole place up with a gentle glow. Norwich is the city Sankara literally built from nothing, and Shirey was one of its vital pieces. As Shira rallies everyone for the photo, a woman suddenly calls out his name. He whips around and demands to know who she is, but she can't help wondering if he's forgotten her face. In the dim light, her face is barely there, and the young man actually can't place her, so he blurts out, "Where have we met?" She steps into the light, slams Shira with, "You're a fool," and drops the bombshell. She's his grandmother. Sure snaps back to it, how certain he was that she was still alive, and how he just knew she'd show up for the festival. Even after Shira finally became a merchant, one dream still wouldn't quit, finding his grandmother, because just 2 months ago, Sankara dropped the bombshell that the witch had shown up at last year's harvest festival. Back then, he was battling insect monsters with Azure Blaze, right in the middle of the mission. And he finally locked eyes with Petty Full. This meeting was absolutely huge for him. After that, everything spun by in a blur. Then the harvest festival rolled around again, and he celebrated it with his friends like he couldn't wait any longer. Right then, she burst onto the scene and completely caught Shura off guard. He lined in and demanded, "What did you just say?" And she pushes him to help his grandmother, straight up, so she can keep working on the cheese. Anna lined in and demanded, "Who is that woman?" She insists, again, that she's his grandmother, but the girl clocks it instantly. She looks way too young to be his grandmother. The woman flashes a smile, nods, and strides right up to Shura with a peace sign, and then Hannah gets asked if she's caught on to the family resemblance. But the moment Shura feels that peace between them, she's blown away. She takes a step back and tells him she can't be his grandmother. Shirer says the whole idea sparked from pure imagination. His real grandmother was already over 80, and even then she was a fragile, weakening woman. This isn't some sweet, wide-eyed dreamer, no way, not her. Sankara shyly closes in and calls out to Risa. When the witch finally answers, she smiles and asks, "So, how are you holding up?" The young man can't believe it when the mayor turns to the witch, bursting with gratitude and declaring the holiday a total success, thanks to Shire's help. Aries watches in sharp silence, realizing the witch's help is exactly what she desperately needs. He said he'd finally become a real fine man, and all those festival trips from when he was a kid had been worth it. She leans in and demands, "Am I really your grandmother?" Then keeps insisting it again and again until you can't ignore her. He grills her with one question, her favorite movie, and Risu lights up, saying it's Lethal Weapon. He leans in and presses for her second favorite movie, and Yevrius teases it could be Braveheart, then shuts him down with a confident pick, Mad Max. Sure fires off a question about her favorite actor, and she answers without blinking, Mel Gibson. She said he carries caution like it's RISU, tiny and controlled, and it drives her crazy. Then she leans in and asks, "Do you remember being 7? And she drags him back to that day, reminding him how he peed himself on the way home and how she had to change him. Shira brushes it off, says it's not even worth talking about, then fires back. "Where have you been all this time, and why did you vanish without a single word?" Arzu gazes at him with soft eyes, whispers an apology, and pleads for him to calm down and not get upset. Patty bursts in looking panicked, blurts out who the heck this person is, and right away, a crushing aura hits her like a warning. Saint Kara beams with pure joy and declares that she's about to unveil the real legend. The immortal witch Arisu starts pulling people in, one by one, like a magnet drawing them toward her. Everyone's dying to talk to the witch. And right here, the risotto is trading jokes with the mayor, roasting him for being way too loud, while Sankara blinks and apologizes, and the witch just smirks like, "Don't worry, I've been used to it already." But now she won't get to enjoy a single moment of the holiday, because suddenly, a blazing magical circle bursts into existence, and a sword shoots up out of it like it's been waiting for battle. Someone blurts out, "This has gotta be the legendary Mel Gibson sword." Karis blurts out an apology, then explains it all. She'd been meeting her grandson. He swings his sword like a promise, and sends everyone off to bed with a wicked wish, sweet dreams, for as they finally drift into sleep. Shura snaps, asking what she's doing, and the witch quickly reassures him, telling him that everything he's seen is nothing but an illusion spun from his own imagination. Then she closes the distance and throws her arms around him in a tight hug. He steps back, brow furrowed, and demands to know why she's doing it. Riz snaps that they've got to get out of here right now. Shira stares, totally lost, begging for answers. Then the witch just smirks, says it's all crystal clear, and swings open a blazing portal. Arisu grabs him by the arm and drags him along, swearing they'll make it back to his home. The portal yanks them straight into the world of Shira, and when they drop out of the sky, he screams in pure despair, until Risu suddenly throws herself in at the last second, right before they slam onto the roof. Risu's magic whisks them down through the building, and they land safely on the first floor, though Shir staggers, dizzy from the brutal sudden drop. As Ares stretches her arms and beams, finally back home, a young man steps in and pours hot tea into a cup. Eros takes a sip, gets hit with a rush of how happy he used to be as a kid, then turns to serve her with a grim glare. She snaps that he's way too cheerful for his own good, and he fires back that he's already 25, not some child anymore, leaving the witch to smirk like she can tell he's holding back what he really wants to say. She nods and tells him flat out that he's got a ton of questions, but the first one is the only one that matters, so she leans in as he demands to know the truth, who she really is. Risu grimaced, shot out, "I already said it. I'm a witch, isn't that supposed to be enough?" The young man snaps back that it explains nothing at all, then tells her to act her age. Shira lays it all out, how her sudden absence lit the family on fire, and then demands answers. Why did she vanish without a single word? But Ruse shrugs it off and says witches always have their reasons, she just can't reveal them. He growls that dodging an answer like this is dead wrong. Then someone leans in and asks if she uses magic to look younger. She snaps back and swears her young look isn't a lie, it's who she really is now, and that twist absolutely shocks Shura. Arisu admits she only looked older because of magic, so she reshaped herself to stop everyone from asking why she never seems to age. She tells Shira to lock in and pay attention, no distractions. Right before his eyes, he suddenly morphs into an old man. A young man freezes in sheer terror as the girl abruptly transforms into a shriveled old woman right before his eyes. The witch sneers and taunts him, asking if he really loves watching that grandmother he can't forget. But Shirin insists he's fine, only he's tangled up in confusion and a little dread, admitting it's brutally hard to take it all in because there's just too much happening at once. Arisu says her grandpa Shura begged her to stay young for him, lavishing her with non-stop praise, sweet, beautiful, and perfect in his eyes. She says they'll burn through passionate nights together, faces inches apart, emotions spilling everywhere. But Shiro slams on the brakes and stops her, begging her to keep the details about his grandfather and grandmother to herself. Karisu flashes a grin and asks, "All right, any more questions?" Then the boy pulls her to a secret portal tucked inside the wardrobe, and Harser's mind slams back to what it was like all those years ago. She and her husband were scraping by, because every last coin got poured into building their house, and now there was zero left for travel or fun. She blurted out her plan to turn that empty room into a portal, a doorway that would link their world straight to Rufaro. Together, they dive into countless adventures and soak up every magical second of their escape.